So, Luke, have you seen Endgame yet?
Yeah, I did. Tyler, did you see it?
Yeah, I did. Nathan, did you see Endgame yet?
No, of course not. And I'm not going to let that stop me from doing a podcast on it. Um, Hello, welcome to Ignore the Bell. I'm Nathan.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Luke.
And this is exactly what is happening. I have not seen Endgame, and these two guys are going to explain it to me, and I'm going to provide commentary. It's going to be like, what is it, like Waldorf and Statler from The Muppet Show? Did I get their names right?
I think so.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Statler and Waldorf. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just like the two grumpy old guys sitting in the balcony who are just like, ooh, this thing's terrible. Why did we pay money for it? I didn't. I paid them to stop. That whole thing. That's basically my role in this, I'm pretty sure. So before we get into it, though, then we do have a sponsor. So listen, folks, you know that you're going to die, and you need to think about end of life care. And beyond that, you need to think about what's going to happen to your remains. Well, if you are in the market for any kind of burial plot or anything to do with cremation, you know that funeral homes cost an arm and a leg. They charge crazy amounts of money for this kind of end-of-life care. But now, thanks to Thanos, there is the snapping. Just with one snap of the fingers, your mortal remains turn to dust. It's much more affordable, it's environmentally friendly, and basically do it to half of your family members, and that will solve everything somehow, magically. Thanos' snap. Get it today. Or at the end of your life, whenever. I don't know.
Yes, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Yeah. Like, we need to support this plan, right? This is how we will fight climate change. All right, folks, I hope you enjoy the podcast.
Oh man, I wish this discussion could go on forever.
Ignore the bell! We're gonna keep going, people!
All right, so we are talking about Avengers. Game over, man. End a game. No more movies unless you have to, I don't know, unless you insert, 2 more quarters. And then game not over. We're going to reboot everything. And all the characters that you thought were gone are not really gone. They're just going to come back. But no, this is the end. End game. It's over, right? Is it? I don't know. I have not seen the movie. Is it over?
I mean,
I knew it! This is why I didn't pay money for it. I'm tired of being manipulated.
This morning they released a new Spider-Man Far From Home trailer.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it was prefaced by Tom Holland, the guy who plays Spider-Man, being like, hey guys, there are going to be spoilers for Avengers Endgame in this trailer, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch this trailer. And I'm just going, wait, really? We have to do this?
Clever marketing. You can't even watch a trailer unless you go and buy a ticket to see Avengers Endgame. They're like, we haven't made enough in the billions yet. We're going to release a trailer, but say, pump the brakes, folks. You can't even watch this until you go and see the movie. And if you have seen it, you better go watch it again before you watch this trailer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So there is so much to talk about in this movie because it is 3 hours long. I guess
it makes our podcast look short.
Yeah. Literally, like the last one that we did, the Skype just stopped recording. It said, you guys went on too long.
That's what should have happened. It's just like, you can't do it in the theater. It's just like, sorry, no. Over 3 hours, no.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, literally 3 hours, 2 minutes. So yeah, so much happens, and I guess we're just gonna try to start at the beginning and talk about what happens in...
That's right. Regale me.
All right. Luke, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. All right. So the very first part of the movie is Hawkeye with his family on his farm because he's, retired and he's got that ankle thing on. So that way they make sure that he's staying at his house because of what happened in Captain America Civil War because he's technically a criminal. Okay. So...
have you seen that?
No.
What? Oh, yeah. You haven't seen Civil War?
No. No, I watched part of it and I was just like, this sucks. And I turned it off. I tried like 3 times. I couldn't get into it. Sorry. Okay, but I kind of get it. That him and Captain America, then they are somehow fugitives, or Captain America is an actual fugitive, but Hawkeye is just he's like a convicted criminal who's now under
Yeah.
parole to some degree. Is
Yeah,
this right?
and
Okay.
same with Ant-Man, but that was all covered in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So
Okay.
basically, Hawkeye's there with his family. He's teaching his daughter how to shoot a bow and arrow, and they're having like a picnic. And
What a
so
weird picnic activity.
Hey,
We're
you know what
going
you do for a living? Shooting arrows to kill people? Here, let me train you to do this.
I was thinking, honey, we could go for a family picnic, like get a nice blanket, get that like wicker basket, and then, teach the girl how to kill things.
well, I mean, archery is a fun activity,
Sure.
but
Sure.
anyway, um, so she shoots the arrow, hits the bullseye, whatever, and then Hawkeye calls her Hawkeye and whatever. That's not too important because basically he grabs the arrow out of the target and then he turns around and his daughter is just not there.
Oh.
And so then he's
Did she
like,
take
"What the heck?"
advantage of our sponsor, the show's sponsor?
Yes, she did.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. So then Hawkeye turns around and he's like going to talk to his wife and his other two kids and be like, "Where did she go?" And then they're not there. So then he's just kind of like looking around like, "What's going on?" And obviously we know as the audience that they have been dusted because of Avengers Infinity War.
Hmm.
And
Actually,
then
the person I went with, my brother-in-law, he was like, I don't get it. What happened in the beginning? I'm like, it's the end of Infinity War. He was like, oh, we should have like actually showed some dust in the air. I'm like, I think there was like a little
yeah,
bit.
there was a little bit.
So it
Okay.
wasn't perfectly clear.
Okay. They also actually put a little bit of thunder in the background to so that way you can hear Thor arriving in Wakanda, even though like, you probably wouldn't be able to hear it where Hawkeye is, considering Thor showed up in Africa and Hawkeye is in America.
Wow. There's
So
no way people's eardrums could have withstood that kind of sound in Wakanda. Like it just would have been like heads exploding if it was actually that loud that you could hear it in America.
yeah.
But no, good choice. Good choice, Marvel. I like it.
I didn't
anyway.
even know that's why they had that there.
I hope it is. I hope it is.
And then so that's basically the beginning. Then the Marvel logo shows up, and that's the first like 2 or 3 minutes of the movie.
All right, we're powering through.
Yeah. And then I don't even remember what happens after that. Like I know that
So then it is yeah, then it's like all of them being in the Avengers complex,
do they
right?
get Iron Man before that?
Oh yeah, they do go out to space to so that we can catch up with Iron Man, who is if you had seen the trailer, it's that
I've seen the
scene.
trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
he's like gonna die, right?
yeah.
He's like, I've got no food and no air, and all I've got is this helmet to talk to. Wilson!
Yeah.
Where it's his like
Well,
volleyball friend.
yes. Well, just before that, then he was actually playing what's that game called? Like the paper
Oh,
football.
yeah, where you like hold up your fingers like that and you have to
Oh
flick
yeah.
it through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was playing that with Nebula, from Guardians of the Galaxy, the blue lady. Um,
Okay.
yeah, he was playing that with her because they're together, and then then he does his message, and then he just kind of like falls asleep, clearly running out of oxygen, and then Captain Marvel shows up and takes
Oh.
the ship all the way back to Earth, and I'm at this point just thinking. Yeah, but they still didn't have enough oxygen for him to survive that long, right?
What
Like,
about Nebula? Is she still on this ship?
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
Oh,
because
okay.
for all the mechanical implants or whatever, then she doesn't need oxygen.
Okay.
It wasn't really, I don't know, she didn't seem very concerned.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, yeah, Captain Marvel just whisks him and the ship back to Earth.
Yeah.
And then he meets up with the other Avengers who are all like, hey, dude, this is what happened. Like, half of everything is gone.
Well, Iron Man knows that because of like Spider-Man dusting and all that in the end
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Infinity War.
Right.
But like this
Guess
is
what?
where
There's inner turmoil within the Avengers. Tony
Yes.
Stark is like, "Oh my goodness, guys, we lost. We said that we would do everything together, and yet, we didn't do this together, and we lost, and there's nothing we can do."
Mhm.
And then he collapses because he's sick and dying of, I, I think, like an infection or something.
I don't think they really explain it. They
It was a
just like he
space
kind of
flu.
collapses, which I mean,
Got a
I
space
did really
virus.
enjoy the movie, but this is one of my problems with it is that they just don't really address that inner problem with the Avengers after that. Like he's never really angry at Captain America after that because he was talking to Captain America, referencing a line that he makes in Age of Ultron, where Captain America says, like Iron Man's like, "Oh, how do you plan on stopping Ultron?" And Captain America says, "Together." And then Iron Man's like, "Well, we'll lose." And then Captain America's just like, "Then we'll do that together too." So then Iron Man shows up back on Earth in this movie, and he's like, "You said we're gonna do everything together. Well, where were you? We weren't together. We lost, and we weren't together." And then after that scene, we just like they don't really talk about that, and Captain America and Iron Man don't really get over any problems. They're just back to being the way they were, and I'm like, but I wanted to see them have like a lot more to
Sure.
them in this movie.
So
But I do get that there wasn't quite enough screen time, I guess, to cover everything. But I feel like that was one of the most important things to cover in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then Captain Marvel is like, "Well, what happened on Earth is also happening on thousands of other planets, so bye!" And then she
Yeah.
just leaves.
Oh wait, but before that, the Avengers come up with this plan, and they're like,
Oh,
"All
that's
right,
right.
we have
Yeah.
found where Thanos is because basically they found this huge use of power in the galaxy or universe or whatever." And so they're like, "Oh, well, that must be where Thanos is because the only other place where we've seen that much power is when he used the stones." So then they all go to where Thanos is on this other planet, and
How
then
do they
they
get
show
there?
up. They use a ship that the like from the Guardians, like the ship that Tony Stark arrived on. I guess they fixed that, and
Oh,
yeah,
it
I
just got
guess.
fixed,
yeah,
and
I
then it
guess.
was able to get there super quick.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
Well, they use those jump points, I guess, to go like super fast, like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I'm assuming you haven't seen that,
I
but
have. I've
oh,
seen
okay.
that.
Well, you know those like jump points where like Rocky Raccoon and all them had like really weird like faces going on because like they were going through
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they used like one and they got there.
Oh, okay.
And so they show up.
Super easy, barely even
Yeah,
moved.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then so then they show up, pin Thanos down, and then they're like, "Where's the stones?" Well, actually, like Thor cuts his arm off using his axe, and then the Infinity
He
Gauntlet drops on the
cuts
ground.
whose arm
Oh,
off?
Thanos, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
he just
So
chops
yeah,
off his arm.
yeah. So and they also have this fun moment when they're on their way over there where I think it's Nebula who's like, "So who hasn't been to space
Oh,
before?" Or maybe it's Captain Marvel who says that, and
Rocket.
like half the people like raise their hand because
Mhm.
some people haven't, and yet this is perfectly normal to some of the other
Yeah.
Avengers. And for some reason, the film felt like pointing that out.
Was it
Yeah.
for comedic effect?
Yeah, because it's Rocket Raccoon. And he's like, "Oh, so who hasn't been to space?" And then like a whole bunch of them raise their hand, and then he's just like, "All right, well, no one throw up on my ship." And then they go
Hmm,
off into that jump
Gotcha.
point. So then anyway,
So
yeah, they're
Thor is able to just like immediately just cut off Thanos's arm.
well, like so basically what happens is they pretty much jump Thanos. He's just on his
Okay.
farm, and then they just surprise attack him.
Uh-huh.
And so all the Avengers are like holding him back and stuff. So and Thor cuts his arm off, the one that's got the gauntlet, and the gauntlet hits the ground and it's completely empty. And so all the
Eat the
Avengers are like,
jewels like rock
yeah,
candy?
yes. No, I'm
What?
kidding.
Really?
No, no.
I'm like, where are they?
So
Yes.
yeah, basically the Avengers are like,
Thanos.
yes.
Thanos explains that the power surge that they just noticed 2 days ago or whatever was him using the stones to destroy the stones, turning them into atoms.
Good thinking.
He's like, well, I finished my plan, so now I'm just gonna be here.
I'll never have a use for unlimited power ever again. There would never be a reason for me to be able to do basically anything I want.
Yeah, because the Avengers were like, hey, yeah, we should just go there. We'll get the stones, and then we'll just do another snap and undo everything that happened.
Well, I've got a question. Now that Thanos at this point in time has effectively accomplished everything that he wants to accomplish in life, what is he doing? Like, did he join a country club? Is he on a beach?
He's just kind of farming. He's like,
what?
Yeah,
He's farming like
yeah,
Hawkeye?
Yeah,
He's like also teaching his child how to shoot a bow and arrow.
Don't you know this is what superheroes do? You just become a farmer.
Yeah, I don't. There's a
Superman is a farmer,
right? That can't be the Thanos decides to start farming.
Yeah.
Apparently, he had always talked about going to this place that he called the Garden. Once the work was done. So
why did he go there before the work was done?
Because he
was that place really threatened by a whole bunch of people? Overpopulation of the garden? Why couldn't he have just gone in there and just like killed all the people? He clearly has no issue with that. And then it's just like, everyone leave me alone. I'm gonna farm. You guys can have an overpopulated universe, but not this section right here. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to bring logic into this. I apologize.
Clearly not the place for it.
Right. This next part, I'm sure you'll be surprised by. So Thor cuts Thanos' head off.
Okay, I did hear this. I've heard some of this stuff.
That was like in the first 15 minutes, I think.
Did Thanos even try to stop this from happening?
No.
Oh, he was fine with it.
Pretty much.
Oh. He did what he wanted to do, and then
did he even get to see a single harvest on his farm?
Yes, we the very first scene of him on the farm is him picking a fruit, putting it in a big bag that's full of them, and then he walks up, he takes it to his cabin, puts it down, sits down, and then gets jumped by the Avengers.
Yeah, with his good hand, because the hand that he used to snap is completely useless now. It's like all burned, and he's like,
was it a farming accident? Why did that thing get injured?
Because like the power of the Infinity Stones on his hand.
Oh, okay, I see. He couldn't have used the Infinity Stones to fix that?
Well, like, I'm pretty sure it was like
I don't know what these things do.
Well, I think that it's because like in like Infinity War, then he snaps, but then I think when he's at the farm, then he like destroys all the stones with the stones, and I think that's what made his arm all messed up, because then the stones were gone, and he can't fix it. And so yeah, but that is a good question. I feel like he could have fixed it after.
That was my hoeing hand. Now I'm gonna have to hoe with the other hand. So his head gets cut off. What do they do with it? Do they put it on a pike like in Lord of the Flies and like?
No, they just kind of leave it on the ground.
We don't get to see what they do after that. Thor just walks off, being upset he let the universe down.
Yeah.
And then you fade to black, and then slowly, one word at a time, it says 5 years later.
No wonder this movie is 3 hours long.
We can
read faster.
I don't get why they took so long, because like when we they show 5 first, so obviously it's not like 5 days later. Like you would be like, well, obviously it's not 5 days later because we just saw that. Like there's obviously more to this movie, and I'm like, okay, we could have just seen the whole text there. Like, why is it like that? Seems like you're trying to reveal something, but
there must have been like some subliminal messaging that they put in there. Like every time they flashed it, then there was like, see Spider-Man Far From Home, see like, Black Widow. There was like these little messages that they were putting in there, and everybody's straining, like looking at it and just getting embedded in your brain of, I must buy a advanced ticket to Spider-Man. But okay, so it's 5 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And,
Now, how many people have become farmers at this point? I'm assuming everyone. We've just become an agrarian society.
So Captain America is now leading a support group for
farmers.
For just regular people. Just being like, hey, you know what? I was stuck in ice for 70 years, and you just have to move on. That's literally all he says, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
So he's a
Pretty
great
much.
therapist.
Yeah. He's like, you'll have good days and bad days, but like he pretty much says exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Person's like,
It's
I've got
so
PTSD from, trauma in war. And he's like, hey, sometimes you've just got to move on. Yeah, but I get these horrible flashbacks. Yeah, but sometimes you just got to move on. I keep seeing like my friends, like all of my brothers in arms, and like they're not here. And I had to tell his widow, and hey, man, sometimes you just got to move on. Once I was frozen for a while. Sorry, this is great. He's a therapist. Good for him. Farmers and therapists. We're good so far.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I just want to talk about Hawkeye again for a second because he was like one of the best parts of the movie in my opinion. So he has become Ronin now, which they don't really say in the movie. He's just kind of a dude with a sword who's going around killing gang members now who are like bad people.
And he also
Is he
shaved
doing
the
this
sides
in-
of his head.
Yeah.
In Japan?
It depends. He did it well when we find him. He did it in Japan, but I think also earlier in the movie, I think they say that he's in like he did something in Mexico or something.
Yeah,
Oh.
so Black Widow is still trying to lead the remaining Avengers, I guess, in trying to make sure that the world is, surviving with only half the population. And yeah, so she's like talking to them all on, the crazy hologram video systems. And yeah, so then the one person says, "Oh yeah, there's this thing going on in Mexico. It's definitely Hawkeye." And then she's like, "Yeah, we need to get him, but let's not, kill him. Let's just, find him." And
What do you mean helping people survive because they've lost half the population? Wouldn't that make things easier? Like unemployment would drop to 0. Like your chances of making it into the NFL automatically double.
I don't know. There's a lot of trash that's piled up on the curbs.
So it was like 100% of people working in sanitation. They're all gone.
Yeah.
He didn't evenly distribute this between like different, like sectors of employment.
Unclear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like
maybe he took out all the farmers because he doesn't want anybody like horning in on his farming gig. He's like, I don't want any competition. I'm gonna be the only farmer in this universe.
But he did leave Hawkeye.
Yeah.
He did leave Hawkeye. That's
his
true.
greatest rival in the farming.
That's right. It's gonna be like like a tractor pull competition. Like that's how they're gonna settle the next battle. Like
whoa, don't spoil the ending yet. We haven't gotten there.
Those are real things, by the way. I don't know. You guys like are probably aware of this, but like they have like national championships for plowing.
Yeah.
Like that's how Thanos and Hawkeye could have settled this whole thing.
Thanos would show up with that massive ship and be like, "Top this," and then he just started using it to farm.
Right. Okay, sorry. So, we've got Captain America. He is a therapist now.
And no longer Captain America, kind of, I guess. He's just like not
Dr.
part of the
America.
Avengers. Yes.
His competition is now Dr. Phil. This movie actually sounds pretty fun.
The movie that of him being a therapist.
Right.
It's
That he's learned a lot in 5 years, though. He's learned a lot of different like treatment techniques.
yes,
And
just
yeah.
move on. We have
His
good
main
days and
thing is,
bad days.
yeah, his main thing is just telling people how it is. That's his main technique.
We can't go back in time and fix the problems of the past.
But
Sure.
then 5 minutes pass, and he's just like, "Oh, we can do that."
Oh, right. Yeah. So, except we can. And this is ultimately what happens, right? Because my
Yeah.
understanding, I've heard a little bit about this, that basically we now get to go on like a retrospective tour through all the other movies. And we're just like, remember how much fun we had in this movie?
Pretty
Yeah.
much. But yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, everybody kind of figured that that was going to be what happens in this film. That was going to be like the general plot. Um, but it's about the journey, and the journey is that Scott Lang, Ant-Man, he was trapped in the quantum realm at the end of Avengers Infinity War because him and Michael Douglas's character and Hope Van Dyne, the Wasp, as well as her mother, then they were all, and Ant-Man, they were all doing an experiment with the quantum realm. This is
Mm.
just in the post-credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And
Yeah.
Ant-Man goes into the quantum realm, and then the snap happens, and all three of the other people turn to dust. So then Ant-Man is stuck in the quantum realm for these 5 years until a rat happens to walk over the control panel of the van, which is now in storage, and reactivates the machine. So then it spits out Ant-Man.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun fact. I spent my second year of university abroad in the quantum realm. It was an exchange. The year went by like that. Wish I could go back. Had a great time there. What on earth is the quantum realm? I don't understand. They
It's
just
like,
use some
Space
physics word?
between molecules.
yeah, it's when you shrink so far down that you've shrunken, like, yeah, in between molecules, I guess. Like, they
So the
explain it.
subatomic realm?
Yeah,
But
pretty much. But they call it
yeah,
the quantum realm.
I thought it
What
was lower than subatomic.
but
I think so, but
subatomic?
yes.
Um, but what do you eat in the quantum realm?
Unclear.
Well,
Who's doing the farming in the quantum realm? That's what I want to know.
All they say is that things work differently in the
Yeah.
quantum realm.
That's
So,
Okay.
much how they say.
yeah, Ant-Man
How do you
said,
go to the bathroom in the quantum realm? It's, like things work differently on the International Space Station,
Well, like basically to Ant-Man, those 5 years were 5 hours of him in the quantum
Okay.
realm.
So
So
he went
like,
hungry for 5 hours.
yeah, and then so anyway, he shows up at Avengers like mansion or whatever they're calling it, and is
well,
like,
first he has to go see
oh,
what's going on because he has no idea what happened to the world during those 5 hours that he was stuck in the quantum realm. So he's wandering around, sees this whole giant monument valley to the Vanished, I think is how they're referred to.
yeah,
So they're just like these giant signposts that list all the different people who disappeared.
Oh,
And so, of course, he's looking to see if his daughter had disappeared or
is this
not.
arranged alphabetically?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, but I didn't think that it really made sense.
Wouldn't that be the
Yeah,
most efficient way to look it up? Like, he can't Google it? Like, is this like, the vanishing, like, there's no online memorial to them? Like a database of some sort? It seems like that would take a while if you're like, I'm just saying that you're going to look through what, approximately 3.5 billion names?
Well, I think like I'm pretty
I'm
sure
just
they're like,
saying.
I'm pretty sure these like this monument to them was like only for the people in that area or like city who were vanished, I guess. So Yeah, I mean, it would still take quite a while because I mean, half the people in that city were dead, and it's
That
probably a
sounds
pretty big city.
excruciating. It's like, you're gonna have to
Yep.
like take like a water break part way through just to even get to like the monument, and you're just like, oh, I just want to know if she's alive, but I'm winded. This is a hike.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, sure, it's 5 years later, but who spent all that time when you're trying to rebuild the world and make it
Yeah,
work to be like, wait, 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 we got to get these giant stone tablets up in the
yeah,
ground and
Well,
carve in everybody's
yeah.
I
names.
get it though, because Thanos, he killed all of the garbage workers, but he left all of the people who worked in the engraving industry. And so
Yes.
they needed to do something with their skills. They're like, did someone say engravings? So you've lost a loved one. What's that? Half of the loved ones in your life. Well, don't worry. I will get right to work on this.
Yeah. So Ant-Man's daughter is still alive, and he goes to see her,
Oh,
and now
good.
she's 5 years older, so she's like a teenager.
Hmm.
Um, and it's the weirdest thing to me because he, knocks on the door, and then she answers the door, and she's looking at him, and she clearly recognizes him, but then he is the one who says Cassie, and I'm like, wait, how do you recognize her? She looks nothing like she did 5 years ago. She definitely should have been the one who started that conversation with Dad.
Yeah.
Sorry, that really bothered me when I was watching.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's a very fair point. I don't have anything funny to say to that because that just sounds hilarious. Just like right there on the surface.
And yet it's played very somber, It's like,
course
oh,
it is.
what a sweet moment.
Right. You just need some jackass in the audience going, why doesn't she recognize him?
Oh man. And then we
Okay.
never see her again.
Yeah.
Is that like
Like-
basically like Captain Marvel? Her and
Yeah.
the daughter.
Well, except for even less with Ant-Man's daughter. Like Captain Marvel does show up later in the movie, but Ant-Man's daughter just never shows up again. Like,
What?
Yeah.
Wait, Captain Marvel left because she said everywhere else, then half of the people disappeared.
Well,
So
basically, yeah, that's her excuse for not being with the Avengers now, and her reason for not being with the Avengers since the 90s is basically just that. And she says this 3 times in the first 20 minutes of the movie that, oh well, other worlds are they don't have the Avengers. Earth is lucky they have you guys, but
Oh.
the other worlds need me. And then she leaves, and then yeah, that's pretty much it.
she's
just
she's
gone.
doing a census of some sort. She's gonna
Yeah.
come back and yeah, they're in big trouble. They lost half of their people. And I can confirm, no superheroes on that planet. They really suffered.
Don't worry. She's the one who made all the engravings for those other planets. Just
Right. You know what
She's just
cheer
like,
you
how do
guys
you
up?
spell that?
But okay, so we're learning how people are grieving. So they either go to group therapy with Dr. America, or they can go to the land of the vanished and look at plaques.
Or
and
become a retired farmer.
or retire in agriculture. There's that too.
Yeah.
A lot of good options here for grief. And so, so then what happens next to Ant-Man? He then shows up, after he
yeah.
sees his daughter, he
And
then
he's just hey, because all the Avengers think that he's just been turned to dust. So then he shows up and he's at the door, and then Captain America and Black Widow are just wait, what? He's what's going on? So then they open the door, or well, they don't open the door. He just they show him in, and he's just hey, I've been just in this quantum realm for 5 hours. What the heck happened? And so then the Avengers pretty much explain it to him, and then he's just oh. I don't really know how he reacts. I don't remember.
I think he figures out what happened a little bit before. No, actually, yeah, because he doesn't really, because he asks who's Thanos?
Yeah.
So what did he talk to his daughter about? He's like, I'm so glad you're alive. I have no idea why there are these giant plaques to the vanished. Who knows? But hey, hold that thought. Glad you're alive. I gotta go talk to my friends.
Are you still into ponies? What are you doing with your life? And then she just never brings it up. Just,
Right.
well, I wasn't doing that well in school, but now I'm top of the class. For various reasons, I've now kind of shot ahead of my peers.
At no point did she explain why, she thought he was gone for 5 years. No, it's just like so yeah. So then once they explain everything to Ant-Man, then he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, I've been to the quantum realm. Time works differently there. Clearly, that means we can time travel using the quantum realm." And they all go, "Oh, is that possible? Let us think. Well, we need to find somebody who's way smarter than us. Let's go visit Tony Stark."
Okay.
So then they go to visit Tony Stark's beach house.
Yeah.
Just this cabin on the edge of a lake, very serene. And he now has like a 5-year-old daughter. And he's living with Pepper, and so then they get there, and then he's like, "Nope, I'm not going to help you guys because now I have a family. I don't want to lose this. Time travel is dangerous. What if we lose this? I'm happy now." And they're just like, but we could undo everything and bring everyone back. And he's like, I don't care. I have a family now.
Okay. Gotcha.
Also, my question is, how is his daughter so old that fast? Because like, Pepper was not pregnant during Avengers Infinity War, but she's definitely like 5. So like,
She went to whatever the opposite is of the quantum realm.
I was going to say, yeah, time works differently in the 5 years later gap.
That's right. That's right. But okay, so he's got a family, so he doesn't want to time travel.
But then he figures it out that night after supper.
Oh,
Yes,
that took a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's literally like talking to Pepper in the background, and he's just like, "I figured it out, by the way." And she's like, "Figured what out?" And he's like, "Time travel." Like he says it like that. He literally.
This is why I don't like the MCU, because they have these characters who it's just like there's no struggle. There's no anything. It makes no sense. It's just you've got a character. It's like, hey, how about this, Tony Stark? Why don't you think about climate change for 2 seconds? Hey, why don't you think about world hunger for, I don't know, like 4 seconds? Try to fix that. Like, why don't you think about any major catastrophe that we're facing, and just come up with a great solution? But okay, he thought about time travel over dinner, talked to a dog, and now he's got it totally sorted out. Did he talk to a dog? Is this Pepper? I don't even know.
Oh, Pepper.
What? Pepper was the person. Yeah, she was like his butler in the first one, and then
okay,
become like, I guess
Gwyneth
she
Paltrow's
becomes his love
character.
interest. Yeah.
okay. Pepper just sounds like a dog's name, like legitimately.
Yeah, it's an odd name. Anyway.
Okay, I guess he got there a little bit fast because in my head I'm like, he's talking to a dog. You would not think that would move the thinking along too quickly. I couldn't figure it out, and then my dog whimpered, and then I had it all figured out.
So, meanwhile, the Avengers were like, well, we can't, if we can't rely on Tony Stark, maybe there's somebody else who can help us. So, of course, they go to see the, I guess, second smartest person that they know, which is Bruce Banner, who is now Bruce the Hulk Banner, because he is big and green, but he's wearing glasses.
Oh, yeah.
And completely intelligent.
Gotcha.
He's fully Bruce Banner, which means that other personality that was established in Thor Ragnarok and everything, I guess is just gone.
Yeah, okay. That was another thing. Like, Hulk
I
is
have
one of
a
the
lot
like
of issues.
yeah,
with that.
like okay, don't get me wrong, I did like this movie quite a bit, but the Hulk and okay, like the Hulk was oh my goodness. I have so many things to say about the Hulk because
I
like
do, and I haven't even seen it.
because like yeah, he's okay. I'll just start off by saying for one, I'm going to call him Smulk from now on out because you know, smart plus Hulk equals Smulk.
Oh,
I got
Smulk.
that from Mr. Sunday Movies. So
Okay.
anyway, like yeah, as Tyler said, like there's a whole different personality with the Hulk in uh Thor Ragnarok and kind of in Avengers Infinity War,
Yeah.
but that is never brought out again ever in this movie. And I'm like, we didn't even get to see Bruce Banner and the Hulk fix their problem of him not being able to turn into the Hulk in Avengers Infinity War. Like
Yeah.
like that is like such a big thing in Avengers Infinity War that they just never discuss.
Can I just bring this up? If anybody has seen Jordan Peele's movie Us, I know Tyler has, I know I have. The entire film is like you get split and then the other part of you just suffers in this underworld and it's this horrifying existence. And I'm like, that's what happened to Hulk. This is like a tragedy. This is a brutal, horrifying experience that he's living through. And then it's just like, I've got glasses now. You know?
I mean,
Yeah.
like
It's
I
it's
just
the
like
weirdest thing because Bruce Banner is like, yeah, for years I saw, the Hulk as the problem, and then I realized that he was the solution. And so I did a bunch of research and I worked for a long time and I finally figured out how to work with the gamma radiation in order to get the best of both worlds. And now I'm super strong and super smart, and I'm fine living this way. Like,
Why didn't
he
he
just
just
goes,
ask Tony Stark to think about it, over, I don't know, appetizers? Hey, dude, I've got a real problem. I keep turning into this monster. But clearly, if you think about things and talk to, what is it, your wife, Pepper?
yeah.
Girl? Okay, your wife, Pepper, over like a nice glass of wine, a nice glass of Chardonnay. Can you please tell me how to fix this thing that is a massive problem? But okay, so he's okay. I just can I just ask my question about Hulk? I really only have one question. If he's gigantic and he's still a scientist, am I right so far? So he's Hulk, but he's a scientist. How does he even use a computer? What kind of specialized keyboard does he have to have? Because his digits would not fit on any normal keyboard or like a phone. How does Hulk text anybody?
Well, like I don't think he's like a scientist anymore. Or
Oh,
like
okay.
I think he's just more of like I don't know. They don't really explain what he's doing. They just show up talking to him in like a restaurant, and some kids come up to him and are like, "Oh my gosh, you're
Mr.
the
Hulk,
Hulk!"
can we
Yeah,
get a photo with you?
Man,
and
how much does
then
that dude eat in a restaurant?
and then guess what the Hulk does? He dabs. That great meme. Yes, he dabs.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh wow. So we know
yeah.
that this movie is hip and cool and with the times.
It gets better
Oh
later on.
yeah, because oh boy. Yeah.
This is gonna
So
age
anyway,
well too, by the way.
Oh, so well.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Not to mention, it's been 5 years since 2019, and he is still dabbing. I'm like, that is not
Bingo.
cool. Then, like, there is no
Right.
way dabbing in 2023 is
It-
cool.
Is it cool right now?
No, it is not cool right now.
Did the kids react in a way that it was like, wow, that was so cool?
He did it when they were walking away.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like
But
they
he's
were
like,
leaving,
yeah,
and
see, I'm cool, I'm hip, like talking to the other
I'm the
Avengers.
bomb.
And Ant-Man, oh my goodness, he has some sort of inferiority complex. He's like, "Do you guys want a picture with me too? I'm Ant-Man," and they're like, and then Hulk is like, "Oh yeah, no, come on, take a photo with him. It'll make him feel better. It's fine. They do want a photo with you. They didn't recognize you without the mask and all that.
Right.
Like this is like an extended back
Yeah.
and forth that's going on, and Ant-Man is just like, no, I'm fine. Paul Rudd being Paul Rudd, and
Yeah.
that is genuinely funny.
yeah.
And then, I don't know. It's just so weird though,
Yeah.
because then like Hulk, Ant-Man is like, yeah, I mean, like you guys, or yeah, I think it's Hulk who's like, yeah, don't you want a picture with him? And then the one kid is like, mm-mm. He
Yeah.
literally says no, and Paul Rudd like points it out. He's like, see, the kid literally said no. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want, to make him uncomfortable or whatever. And Hulk is still like trying to get them to take a picture with him. It's so
Gotcha.
stupid.
I'm not denying that Paul Rudd is very, very funny, but I would much rather have all of this money go towards a good Paul Rudd comedy and
Yeah.
let him really be Paul Rudd instead of let's just like shoehorn this little scene in here. But okay.
Okay. I think we need to move on a little quicker
Yeah,
because there is a
please.
lot of stuff at the end that is just I have a lot to talk about.
All
So
right.
basically, the Hulk and all them go back to Avengers mansion or headquarters, and they're trying to figure out time travel. And so they send Ant-Man into the quantum realm, bring him back, and he's like, I think he's like a toddler or something. And then they're like,
Yeah, he's a kid.
yeah,
He's a kid the first time, like about like 10 or 12 years old.
yeah, something like
Okay.
that. And so then they're like, okay, well, we screwed up. Son, Captain America and all them are like, all right, well, send him back in, try and fix it. So then they send him in, they bring him out, and he's now an old man. And
Because
so
mind
like,
you, this is all with the
without,
Hulk's idea of this, which he already told them, I'm not an expert on quantum
yeah,
physics. I can't really do this. I basically just deal with gamma radiation, and we all see
yeah.
how that worked out.
Uh-huh.
And so anyway, that's basically it. They send him back in, bring him back out. He's a baby. They send him back in, bring him back out, and he's back to being his normal Paul Rudd self.
He was
And
also an old man at one point.
yeah, and so that's how that goes. But then Iron Man shows up, I think, right after that, and then
Yeah.
so Captain America walks outside. They talk about something, and then Iron Man grabs Captain America's shield out of the trunk of his car, hands it to him, and then they go in, and then they build Iron Man's idea for time travel. And yeah,
So again, if they just asked Tony Stark to do this, then it would have just been done immediately.
I mean, they
Yeah.
did
Well,
ask
they did
him,
ask
he
him,
said
yeah.
no. And apparently it's the next day
Oh.
when Hulk has already tried his idea. Um, and Tony Stark just so happens to show up right then after they've already
Yeah.
tried Hulk's idea.
All right. There's nothing super convenient about that, but okay.
Yep.
So anyway, they basically build Iron Man's idea, and then they're gonna get Ant-Man to try it, or well, they're like, I guess we should get Ant-Man to try it because pretty much they don't have a
Ant-Man
reason
is
to
the
get him
best
to
part of
try it.
this movie. I just have to say that. Like, Paul Rudd is hysterical. Like, because he's like, we only have enough Pym particles, the particles that were invented by Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man. He's like, we only have enough for each of us to go back in time and come back once, plus 2 test runs. And then he accidentally hits the thing and then reappears and he's like, 1 test run.
All right. All right.
It's
That's
actually
pretty
a
good.
funny moment.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
good.
And so basically while they were out trying to get the Hulk and all that, or at least some point in time before this, Black Widow went to Japan where they found out that's where Hawkeye is. I don't remember how they found out he was there, but they do. And so there's actually a pretty cool fight scene where like Hawkeye is sword fighting all these dudes and then he kills them, and then Black Widow shows up behind him, and then he's just like, you shouldn't see me like this. And then she's just like, yeah, but we need you. And then he's just like, okay, well, let's go. And so then they go back to Avengers headquarters or whatever. And because his family died, he's like, pretty much like, I have no other reason to do anything now, so I'll be the person to test run it. So and he does, and it works. So and they're like, all right, let's go get all the Infinity Stones.
I still think that it's really weird because Ant-Man is the only one who has been to the quantum
Yeah.
realm before, so it totally made sense for him to be the
Yeah.
test dummy. But instead, they're just like, "Oh, you got kind of nervous, so never mind, we're not going to let you do it.
Yeah.
Let's let this other guy who has never done anything like this
Uh-huh.
be the one to test it." And of course, they send him back to his family's house,
Yeah, like why would you send him there? Like
farmhouse. So then he like hears, his wife and kids talking in the house, and then he's like, I have to see my daughter, and he like opens the door, not clearly not thinking about any of the ramifications of there
yeah.
being two of him in that time.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, so he calls out to her, but then his time is up, so then he's brought back to the present, and the daughter comes down the stairs and is like, Dad? And that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Okay. Also, I just want to explain time travel because like technically
Okay,
like
but be
it is
brief.
like yeah.
I just want to
Okay.
explain time travel.
So
Okay.
I will be brief because it's actually kind of simple. So
Of course it is.
if you go back in time, and it's like Dragon Ball Z rules, where if you go back in time and you do something, then that doesn't change your future. It just creates like a new world of the multiverse where that decision was made or that thing was changed. And so technically in this scene, not Ant-Man, Hawkeye makes a new timeline because he comes back and he has like the glove, like the baseball glove from one of his sons. And I'm like, even though that's such a slight thing, there is still technically a new timeline because now your son would be like, hey, where'd my baseball glove go? And then like he'd have to like get a new one. So even though that is such a tiny thing, it technically still create a new timeline.
Yeah, but this is the problem with this kind of approach to time travel is that, okay, you've got, what's his name? Doctor Strange, right?
Mhm.
How many versions did he like go and watch to see how many times they would
14 million and something.
So
Yeah.
basically, we are watching one movie, but there are 14 million movies in which they all suffer this horrible existence, which are all absolutely true and actually happening. Happy
Yeah.
movie, folks.
But this is the
Like,
one where they win.
yeah, so this is what I hate about Marvel is we are going to give you whatever you want. It just whatever wish fulfillment. Just it's fan service, but the entire thing is fan service. It's just like it's movies on demand. All right, we're going to take a list. What do you want in this movie, fans? Okay, you want that? We'll do that. You want a funny scene here? Okay, we'll do that. Oh, you want to see all of the Avengers running together across a field all at once, like epically for no reason? Don't worry, we'll put that in every damn movie. Like whatever you guys want, we'll do. And then it's like,
One
okay,
shot around all the Avengers,
oh
right? Yeah.
you
That
you
tracking
got to do
shot.
that. You absolutely have to do that. You got to have like this whole thing of like Thor and whoever else using nicknames for people that are like very funny, right? Okay, we'll do all of those things, and then it's like, yeah, but aren't there real stakes? There's totally real stakes, but don't worry, we'll never show you. It's like a parent reading a book to their child, and then they're like, ooh, this is kind of dark. I'm not going to read what's actually here. I'm going to change it so that way you'll never cry, you'll never be upset, and we'll just, yeah. Like that's because the problem is like it's not a happy movie then. Like you're cherry picking the one instance in which things are good, but then you're denying us the to be witnesses to all of the variations where it's awful. And that feels like you're denying me truth.
Yeah. So
Because
yes,
like
all of
I'm
that
just
all of
saying,
that is very, very true.
like if it was like an alternate history thing, it's like, well, why don't we only do World War II movies where there is no Holocaust, where Hitler dies of a heart attack right before he invades Poland or right before he invades Czechoslovakia, and that it's like, and then everyone's just like, all right, everything's great, no Holocaust. It's like, okay, except for the fact that it did happen. So like if you just I don't know. There's just a certain amount of
Yeah.
Stop. It's infantilizing. We
Like-
can't possibly see something that's tragic. And anyway, but you're acknowledging that there is tragedy. We'll just never show it to you because that bum you out.
And that is one of the things that did disappoint me, is that like it wasn't a dark enough movie, because I feel like it should have been darker, and I feel like more Avengers should have died, because only 2 die in this movie.
But they did die. They died in all of these parallel universes.
Yeah.
They just didn't show it to you because that's not good for the box office.
Either that, or they just didn't figure out time travel, I guess, in those alternate dimensions. I guess Iron Man didn't think about it during that.
Right. He just
Maybe
did his
Captain
laundry
Marvel
over
didn't
dinner.
appear at that one perfect moment to save him, you know.
Yeah. So like I do feel like I'm glad that they did wait quite a while to kill off Black Widow and Iron Man, but like I do feel like some more people should have died in other movies, but like I like how long it took to kill Iron Man and Black Widow, because then like it's a lot more to take in now than if like they had killed them off earlier, and I like that. But I do think like War Machine should have died in Captain America Civil War, I feel like. And or at least someone, like, so that, but anyway, that's a completely different topic.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to these deaths at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because of course they don't happen early in the film. They all happen at the end.
Yeah.
So they, for time travel, then they are going back in order to get the Infinity Stones at the time, like in a time and place where they know that the Infinity Stones will be. But of course, by taking the Infinity Stones from that time and place, they will then need to later bring the Infinity Stones back to that place. And that is where I don't understand what in the world is going on. It's inconsistent with its time travel rules. You're telling me that it creates a completely new set of events, but they have to bring the Infinity Stones back to the same point?
Well, like, I think how they explain it is like when you bring the Infinity Stone back to that one place, then that like stops that other timeline from ever having existed. So like I don't like I mean it doesn't really make sense, because like
So then
if
how
you
would they
take
bring
it,
them back?
then yeah, because like if you take the Infinity
Ooh.
Stone, then like
Touche.
if you take the Infinity Stone, then like a new timeline from like this point where the Infinity Stone is taken, like branches off to way over here. But if you bring it back, then that just like never happened. But like you still took it at one point, so it should still kind of exist, because they're like that timeline should only exist because you took it. But like just because you bring it back doesn't mean it should exist, because like it's so confusing to explain this, because like
It's having your cake and eating it too. That's literally all it is. Like the
Because,
filmmakers are like, let's see, how do we get them to to travel back in time and get the Infinity Stones, and then of course later have to bring them back to that time so that they won't exist anymore in this, from this point forward, because Thanos destroyed them in their time. But it also doesn't have any real effect if they change things in the past.
mhm.
You can't do that. You can't have the. Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, I definitely think
literally
that,
was like trying to explain to David at the end of the movie. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it doesn't make sense.
Like I definitely think they should have gone with different rules for time travel, because like yeah, they just chose.
I mean, they did in a
these,
different,
like,
timeline, but
aside from Back to the Future, is there any good version of time travel? Like, is there like?
Oh, they say
Well,
that Back to the Future is not good time travel. They literally call out Back to the Future
Who
in
does?
this movie.
Really?
Yes. They talk about like what is it? It's Ant-Man who explains he's like, "Oh, so like yeah, we'll have to like bring the thing. Won't we like potentially ruin our future because of all this?" And Hulk says some kind of weird convoluted thing of like, yeah, see, but it's your present and then you'll be adjusting your past, which adjusts your future, which means that you can't. And it's like, and so then he's like, why? Where did you learn that? And Ant-Man is like, oh, I learned it from every single time travel movie ever. And
Mhm.
then Hulk is like, oh, it doesn't work like that. And then they like start listing off all these different time travel movies, like Bill and Ted and The Time Machine and Back to the Future is the last one that they mention. And Ant-Man is just like, so it's just all like stupid, like it doesn't make any sense. Like Back to the Future lied to us, and it's like, yup, not okay
Uh,
with that.
no, but I mean, like the thing is, if you watch Back to the Future, then like because the important thing is internal logic. That it
Yes.
doesn't matter if like you can pull in logic from outside of the film, but within the film universe there has to be internal logic, and so you have to just go with whatever internal logic they're offering you. But if there is an illogical sequence within the film universe, that's when there's a problem. And so like Back to the Future, I don't really see. I mean, I think there's a couple little like nitpicky things with Back to the Future, but in general, when you're watching the movies, you don't say, "Wait, what? This doesn't make any sense." Like
Yeah.
they hold up. But in this, that I'm saying, if I'm following through what you're telling me about the rules of time travel, that you're basically creating like you're essentially creating nexus points when you go back, then there's now these nexus points where you're shooting off all these different variations of what could possibly happen. And right, like am I getting this
Yeah,
correct?
it's basically like you create a new Earth of the multiverse. And
Right.
so yeah,
And
it's
so
like
like a million of them are going to be awful.
14 million.
Right. 14 million
yeah.
of them are going to be awful. Because presumably then Doctor Strange was seeing this, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so, but don't worry, we'll only give you the one that you can take your kids to, that you
Yes.
can take your children to come and see, and it'll be okay. And but that
Well,
okay,
like I guess those Earths, like a lot of them would just be like I'm okay. I don't want to like go too far off topic or nitpick this too much because like how would there be 14 million? Oh, yeah, 14 million different things that happened after they lost. Like, what? Like, there's 14 million different things you guys do after this. Like, I can definitely see like a few, there's definitely a ton of possibilities, but like 14 million, like,
I mean,
because
I guess a lot can happen in 5 years.
I guess, because like, I mean, I feel like all of them would have turned out like how it did, where Captain America's helping the support group and Black Widow's like kind of the leader of the Avengers. Like,
I mean, that's my issue when you start talking about that is, these characters are these characters. They're going to do what these characters do.
mhm.
Ultimately, like yeah, we are getting into, this discussion of destiny and all that, but like, it's when somebody says, oh, if I were you, I would do this. It's like, no, if you were me,
You would
exactly
do
me,
exactly what I
then
would
you
have
would do
done. Yeah.
exactly what I'm
that's right.
doing.
That's right.
So that's why, like, it doesn't, uh, yeah,
No, I
there's
hear
no
you,
logic
Tyler, because I
there.
think the issue is like I think another good version of time travel, one that I really like, is Stephen King's 11/22/63, which then got turned into I think it was a Hulu series with James Franco in the lead role. And the rules that Stephen King sets up in this, I really like because basically he is using um, temporality almost has a consciousness, and so like time itself is almost a being, and you've got this nexus point where the person goes through it and they can go back in time to this one particular place. I think it's like 1955 or somewhere around there, where they can go back in time. And then if they try to change something that's going to have too big of an impact on the future, then everything starts getting in their way, where you've got this outside force that seems to, so basically the character goes back to try to stop the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And because that would alter things so dramatically, then anything you can imagine possible that could go wrong that would prevent him from stopping Oswald from doing this does go wrong. Whereas if you went back and you're just like, oh, I want to, go and get an ice cream cone and then like come back to my time, then it's like, well, ultimately, like the person selling it made a few cents off of that, but that didn't really change anything.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's easy to do. But if you want to affect a much bigger change, then that is going to be much more difficult to do. And that time doesn't want to be changed, that it will fight against being changed, that linearity, or chronology itself doesn't want to have that. So it will constantly try to correct things. To me, that works. So then when you're reading it, then you're like, okay, I understand the rules, and now I've got real stakes involved in this. But in this, this is why I think I really don't like the MCU in general, is that they're such secular stories while at the same time giving us demigods. And I don't know what to do with that, because it's like you're giving us these beings who are as close to all powerful as you can imagine, but they're human. They have all of these flaws the way we do. But there's nothing overriding all of this. There's no forces of good and evil. There's no like cosmic war that's really going on. It's just because like in Star Wars, like to me, I love that you've got the Force, and then you can wield it one way or the other, and that you've got the Sith and the Jedi, and that it's like you can get influenced one way or the other, and you've got this big thing that's hanging over it. So it's like you can understand why people are doing some of the things that they're doing. But in this, there's no sense of anything beyond these characters, right? It's such a secular universe that it just, to me, I think it's frustrating because you want there to be some bigger sense of logic going on to all of this. And it's like when things don't seem to make sense, there isn't anything like, oh, because that's what time wants it to do, or that's because this is like ultimately what the Force wants to happen, right? There's nothing there. It's just like, oh, it's because that person was stupid. Like that's always the answer in these movies when you go, well, something didn't make sense. There is no other force that's coming in to try to account for things that don't make sense.
Yeah. All right. So they start traveling through time.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Oh, also we didn't explain how like they get Thor.
Oh, that's right.
We just skip that. We can either I don't know, it's not like a huge thing, so I feel like we can just like briefly mention it.
Sure.
Yep. They carry Smolk on the back of a truck in order to drive to New Asgard, which is a place on Earth that was previously uninhabited, I suppose.
Yeah. Is this the cliff that Thor's dad was hanging out? Okay.
Or that's what they say, but like that village existed in 1945 in the first Captain America movie, because apparently that's the village where like Red Skull shows up and finds the Tesseract. So like, I don't know if it was just like if that cliff that Odin died at is a different place, or if that village from Captain America: The First Avenger is a different place. Like, anyway, that's
okay.
A pick.
So Thor has let himself go because he's so depressed about all of this. And he has a gigantic beer belly. And his friends...
human now?
I mean, he's lived for over 1,000 years, but now he's doing nothing but drink beer.
And yeah.
So he puts on weight?
Apparently.
Because the only reason he has always looked the way he has is because he's been hitting the gym pretty regularly. And he's on like a ketogenic diet or something.
I
I
guess
mean,
so.
he's still muscular.
Yeah.
Sure.
He
But
just
he's
has
gone-
a beer belly now.
Right. So he's gone off of his diet, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this being played for laughs?
Yeah, pretty much. And that is something that kind of annoyed me because there's a moment later in time travel where he's totally got a motivation to like bring himself back into the fight and actually like take things more serious again, but like he just stays fat and I'm like, you're just using this for a joke, but then you're like, well, let's just keep it in, I guess. Like, because there's not much time to show him do a training Rocky montage in the movie. So, like,
Couldn't he just use his
like,
hammer?
really...
Just like hammer his abs back
Oh.
into like, you know?
Okay, there's like
Well-
two parts. We'll talk about that. But
Yeah, we will get to that. All right, so they so they go to get Thor and his buddies Korg and whatever the other one is, which I assumed died along with all the other Asgardians on their ship when Thanos attacked it, but apparently not.
well, like Thanos only killed half. Like this, like all the people who live in this little village are a quarter of the Asgardians because in the beginning of Avengers Infinity War, then Thanos had killed half of the Asgardians because he only kills like half of a population, and so that's all the people who were on board when we start the movie, and then when the snap happens and that kills another half of the Asgardians, so it takes it down to a quarter. And
But wasn't Thor like found in space in Infinity War?
well,
Not
like
ship with the rest of the Asgardians?
yeah, but basically that was like I guess a half of the Asgardians got off of that ship, and
Oh,
like
okay.
and then the other half were just killed by Thanos.
Not explained, but okay.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to be like, oh, I guess some Asgardians are still alive. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Korg and his buddy, the weird blob thing, then they're playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
Oh, so you know that this is hip and cool.
Oh,
and this
yeah.
will definitely age well.
And again, Fortnite is not in 2019 in this movie. It's in 2023 or whatever year they're in.
Right.
Which makes it even better because
How sad that there's no new like video game that has become a fad by
although I suppose it does kind of make sense because why would people be working on video games when they can work on other things like making memorials and carving names into rocks?
and farming.
Yes, and
And
farming.
farming.
Can't forget that.
Right.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. Anyway, and then Korg is all upset. He's like, Thor, this Noob Slayer 69 is making fun of me over the internet. Can you yell at him? And then Thor puts on the headset. He's like, hey, stop messing with my friend, or else I'm gonna come over there and kill you, or whatever.
That sounds
Yeah.
like the internet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Threats over a video game. Yep. That's
And that-
accurate.
Basically, Thor has the same like reason to join the Avengers as Hawkeye because like he's just kind of like they show up and at first he's like, no, I don't want to join the Avengers, and then they're like, oh, you should, and then he's just like, okay,
We
like
can change the past. And he's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm still not interested.
oh yeah. It's
And then
because
like
of-
15 minutes later, he's like looking around and he's like, you know what? I am gonna go join the Avengers. I'm gonna head right on over there. Because
Oh.
they go back. They go back without him,
Mm.
and then he shows up.
Well, I think actually, I'm pretty sure he goes with them because I'm starting to remember now. I'm pretty sure his main motivation to go back with them was because they were like, "Oh, we have
Oh,
beer."
right. Yes, we
And
have beer on
then-
the ship.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then he's just like,
gotcha.
"All right, I guess I'll join."
There's no beer in the present. Wouldn't it now? I'm not saying that anybody would necessarily enjoy this, but if I were to, let's say, give notes on the script, wouldn't it make a whole lot more sense to just start with everyone is motivated to fix this?
I would
Wouldn't
think
that
so.
just have simplified everything? And then you've got incredibly motivated characters who are angry and they're trying to fix this huge injustice. And if you showed them, like, to some degree being miserable, like Captain America, let's say, is in group therapy and he loses it instead of being in charge. And he's just like, hey, man, sometimes things just don't go your way. You got to move on. And instead of like Tony Stark being like, hey, like, I got a nice, like, house by the lake. Like, if everybody was just like, things are not getting better. Like, this is awful. And like,
Yeah,
wouldn't it just make sense just to
Well, like-
start there?
And they
absolutely.
did kind of start there, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine
They
with
started
this.
there and then
But
they jumped 5 years forward.
because
That's
they killed Thanos, and then I guess after that they're like, well, now that the Infinity Stones are gone, we have no hope.
I don't even understand why they had to jump 5 years forward before they come up with the time travel idea.
Because otherwise, Cassie wouldn't, Ant-Man's daughter wouldn't have grown up 5 years.
Integral to the plot.
Yes, I don't know.
Because
We're like,
Black
these people had to have been suffering for a while with only half the population.
But you show them not suffering though. That you show them like that they've like achieved acceptance, and then you've got these other people who are like shaking them, saying like, "Don't accept it. You've got to be upset like me." And that just seems like a lot of screen time trying to get people to do, like, get these characters to do what they're of course going to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it takes a full hour, I'd say, before they even start time traveling. Like, basically, the first act of the movie, the first hour, is all of this preamble to the actual film, which only starts once they jump, through time.
And this is one of those things that an established franchise can do, and fans are not going to complain about it. But if this was a debut film, this would never get greenlit like this. This script would never go into production. This would immediately get shouted down. It's like, that's not where you start the story. And I understand that you're talking about a saga. You're talking about however many movies at this point, and so people are really, really invested in it. But I still, even like when it's like 20 movies in, I still don't think that's how you start this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the jump 5 years into the future.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with, them all having given up on changing things until Ant-Man shows up. But I don't understand why, at that point, it's still so hard to convince people, hey, we can fix everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Thor is just like, nah, too late. It's like, no, we literally just told you it's not too late. We can fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he still doesn't want to go at first. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like, I would say that it's just things like this that are my problems with the movie. Is that, like, the main idea of the movie, I think, was great, and there's some stuff and some parts of the story that I think are fantastic, and some parts that are executed perfectly. But there's also a lot of things that I found were like, just like, why is this in the movie and why was it executed this way? And so, like, it's just things like, Thor not wanting to join in the fight, and same with like Iron Man and stuff. Well, Iron Man, I can get where he's coming from a little more, but Thor is like, why are you not like immediately rejoining the fight? Because the biggest mistake you made in your life, you have a chance to fix that.
Yeah,
and you're just like, no.
Did it generate any tension in the theater when you're watching it? Were you thinking, oh man, they're gonna have to do this without Thor? Like, and you're like, oh, like, or are you just like, move on? Like, we know you're going to join. Like, okay. I just was curious.
So anyway, the whole time travel thing starts. They're all going to different parts, and one thing that I did enjoy is that, one thing that I enjoyed was that one group of them is going to New York during the Battle of New York from the first Avengers, and they kind of make fun of this, how they were like, oh wait, we've been thinking about this so hard on where we're going to go in time, but now we realize that there are 3 stones in New York in one time, and they're kind of like, that's kind of stupid. Like, how is that such a convenience? How it's just like 3 stones just happen to be in New York all at the same time, one city. Like, so that part of the movie I did kind of appreciate, because I was like, at least you're kind of nitpicking yourself a little. So
I guess New York is the place to be, though.
Yeah. All right. Tyler, where do you think we should start with the time travel teams?
Oh, let's do Thor's whole thing.
All
Because
right.
Thor and Rocket, they have the least interesting
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
thing here. They go to Asgard in order to get the ether from out of Jane, Thor's old girlfriend, played by Natalie Portman. Um, that
Wait, did you say they need to get the ether out of her?
Yeah.
Yep, it merged with her.
Yeah.
It's not actually a stone,
So
as
this is
Thor.
going to be like a medical procedure.
Well,
Yeah, it
more
literally
like just
stabbed her
taking
with
someone's
this
blood. Yeah, it's like
syringe
just
thing.
yeah.
Cool. In a superhero movie.
And later
Okay.
on, they have to get it back into her.
Yeah.
hmm
They don't show that part though.
Yeah.
Did they get Doctor Strange to help with this?
Oh, he
No.
he busted at the end of Infinity War.
Oh, okay. Okay. I couldn't remember.
No, no doctors.
Um, but yeah, like one of the things that I just don't like about this quest, I guess, is that like Thor and Rocket were like they had probably the most interesting relationship in all of Avengers Infinity War, but in this one they have like the worst because we don't get to see any of that. It's just like Thor
Yeah,
is doing his thing while Rocket does the mission.
yeah. Rocket is like, "Hey, Thor, you know this place. Where should we go?" Thor, stop walking over that way to find the
Yeah.
wine cellar. And then Thor eventually like runs into his mom who is about to die, and so then he has a nice moment with his mom. Meanwhile, Rocket is going after Jane, um, Thor's girlfriend, by himself, since apparently, Thor just went off wherever. So yeah, then Thor gets he's like, "Wait, I have to do something before we go back to the future." And then he reaches out his hand, and then Mjolnir, his hammer, comes to him and he's like, "Haha, I'm still worthy." And that's the only moment that you get to explain that even though he's fat, he's still Thor.
Although he totally could have caught that and become skinny because of the hammer, like again,
Oh, that would have worked
because
so well.
yeah, like and so that part I was just like, not to mention then he had the motivation too because he talks to his mom who's about to die and realizes from her like, oh, I shouldn't just let all these people have died in vain. Now let me bring me my hammer and become skinny again and go and face Thanos. Like I would have been, oh my goodness, I would have been so excited if that had happened. But that didn't happen. And so it was just kind of like I was like at that point of the movie I was like, oh okay, I fine if he has that hammer, like I didn't really care, but then it brings up an amazing part of the movie later, but we'll get to that. That's basically Thor and Rocket's whole quest though. Like
Okay.
Yeah. And
that's
this is
pretty much
also like Natalie Portman's return to the MCU for what I'm sure was originally a three-movie deal, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna need her for Avengers later, so let's not have her in Thor 3." And yeah, because Natalie Portman, I'm assuming, did not want to sign on for any more films other than three.
yeah.
So she did the first two Thor movies and then this movie.
And apparently
Oh.
she do like I don't even think she wanted to return to it, but they were probably like, "Oh, you're under contract, so be in
Yeah.
this movie, please."
Make an
Like,
appearance.
yeah. And so anyway, that's their quest. The other one that I didn't find all that interesting was Nebula and War Machine's quest to get the Power Stone. Like,
Yeah, that was weird. Basically,
yeah,
they went to the place that Peter Quill, Star-Lord, found the Power Stone, that planet at the beginning of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But for some reason, they have to wait for Peter to get there in order to follow him to where it is, but then they knock him out before he gets there and they still find it.
yeah, yeah. It was confusing, and yeah, like their quest was just so boring to me. I
Well,
was just like, get
I'm
back to the other people.
I'm genuinely confused. Like, so basically, they all just want to get all of the Infinity Stones, right?
Mhm.
And then they want to get the gauntlet in some way, right?
Actually,
No.
no, they don't, because with Stark tech, you can do anything.
Oh, okay.
Like,
So
Yeah, what, you think that Tony Stark can't develop something to hold the stones that formed the universe? Gosh,
yeah,
Nathan, have you even been paying attention?
right, yeah. Wasn't it supposed to be like Peter Dinklage, his character, where he had to use like
yes,
the power of a star, but Tony
yeah,
Stark can do it if he just like has a good cup of espresso? Then
yes.
it's like then he can figure it out.
And
Okay.
again, my problem with the movie is these small little details that they don't like. That it was just totally
And it
passed
seemed like
by.
that was a pretty
Like,
big quest in
yeah,
Infinity War, and then apparently that like you just have removed the stakes from that entirely because it was just like, can we possibly do this? Thor almost dies. He's in the center of that, "Ah!" right? And it's like the thing shooting through him, and it's like, oh, why don't you just ask Tony? Tony's like, oh yeah, I got a whatchamajigger over there, you know?
Oh, you needed a vibranium axe? Sure, here you go.
Right.
yeah,
Seriously.
But
like
so they don't need a gauntlet, but they want to get these stones to do what? To unsnap?
yeah, oh, snap, yeah, and
Yeah,
And
so their plan is to bring everyone back, but to bring them back in the present. So they were not there for those 5 years,
mhm.
but they will return at this sudden point,
at what point?
Whenever
whatever
they
time
snap,
they do the second snap.
So after they've already cut off Thanos' head, or are
Yeah.
they planning to bring him back too? It's like the head goes right back on.
no, I think
Just
like
bringing back all the dusted people.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
Mm.
And then but that's the enemy in this movie?
no, Thanos is the enemy in this movie because basically Nebula of the past can see like because she's in 2014 because of time travel, then Nebula in 2014 can see the recordings of her robotic eye because she's in 2014, which also doesn't really make sense with the rules of time travel in this movie because if the rules like if you can't
Well,
change
Luke, they
the future.
share a network.
I
They share a
guess,
network,
yeah, basically
okay?
they're on the same Wi-Fi connection, and it's just like we have the same connection, so we can, yeah. And then, so basically Thanos is like, they're trying to get the stones, which
Yeah,
means,
and then
yeah,
he sees himself get like he sees his own head get cut
yeah,
off in the future, so he knows that that's gonna happen.
yeah.
Okay. And does he want to stop this from happening?
He just kind of said, no, he's kind of happy. He's like, because he realizes that he snapped half of existence away, so
I
he's,
won!
yeah. So then he says,
I am
I am
inevitable.
yeah.
Man, this guy just makes so much sense. Everything
Okay,
about Thanos
this
makes
is what I
so much
didn't
sense.
like, especially as part of the movie, because like Thanos went from being like a character who you're like, okay, I can at least see where you're coming from and somewhat sympathize with you. In this movie, he's just back to being a regular Marvel movie that's two-dimensional and has no like personality. He's just, oh, and also, okay, we'll get to Thanos' plan in this movie, which is briefly mentioned. Like,
Well,
so
they will
anyway,
get to that.
Like
yeah,
I mean like I'm not trying to be dismissive, but I think I get it. So they go on these quests to get all of these
yeah,
like Infinity Stones.
yeah.
And
Hmm?
right, more or less this is essentially what happens. They split off and all right, and then they get them all, right?
Yeah, okay, but I want to talk a little bit about the New York stuff because that part, like, it's easily the most interesting part of this hour of the movie, I guess. Because
This hour
like
of the movie.
Literally, it's divided into 3 hours,
yeah,
like
Okay.
each
um,
individual act.
so basically in this one, uh, Iron Man and Ant-Man are trying to get the Tesseract from Loki, and they they fail at doing that.
Well, they're not getting it from Loki. They're getting it from Shield, who has captured it at the end of the Avengers.
Yeah.
This is a scene that takes place just after the first Avengers film, after the Battle of New York is already over, and Shield is taking possession of the Tesseract. Then, yeah, they
Okay.
mess up, and Loki escapes with the Tesseract.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Hulk basically goes to the Sanctum Sanctorum and at this time and gets the Time Stone from the Ancient One from Doctor Strange. And then Captain America goes to get the Mind Stone, which is in Loki's scepter at this time. So this was like easily the best part of it for me was that Captain America shows up. He's in this room full of Hydra agents who are pretending.
This was actually a good moment.
He was pretending like they're all a part of Shield, but they're all secretly Hydra, as we know from the movie Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And so he steps into the elevator just like he did in The Winter Soldier, and it's that scene where he says, "Before we start, does anyone want to get out?" This time they have Loki's scepter. He steps in, and instead of saying, "Before we start, does anyone want to get out?" and take them all down, he leans over to one of them and says, "Hail Hydra." And so he gets the scepter from them and starts to take off with it.
Because he's like, "Oh, I'm supposed to grab the case that you have there," and they're like, we don't think so," and they're getting ready to, fight him, and then he's like, "Hail Hydra," and then they're like, "Oh, okay, never mind, here you go."
Yeah.
Whoa, it's like Open Sesame.
Yeah, well, it's like because he's pretending to be part of basically this branch off of the Nazis.
Yeah, but
they're a part
all
of.
that you have to do to convince them that you're one of them is just say the magic words.
Well, like at that time, like no one knew they were Hydra, I guess. So like,
I don't know how they didn't know that he was.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a fun moment anyway.
Because it references a comic book that recently came out that set the internet on fire.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, no, I'm vaguely familiar with that.
But so then Captain America takes it and he starts to walk away, and as he's on his way out, then himself from the first Avengers movie sees him and then uses the comm system and says, "Oh, I have eyes on Loki," because Loki can like shapeshift and stuff.
Right.
And so then they fight, which was like so good, especially because like Captain America is my favorite character and he was easily the best part of this movie. Like, so then he fights himself.
I don't think Tyler is convinced of that, and I'm definitely not convinced of that. Every time like we get into like Shield and Hydra, and then like there's all of these characters, I just feel like Stanley from The Office, where he's just like, "How many vampires am I supposed to care about?" You know what I mean? It's just like, how many of these people am I supposed to care about and be invested in? But okay.
Like,
all right.
America is like one of the characters that I'm definitely invested in, and like so I was pretty happy when he got to fight himself, and then himself from the Avengers says that line that is pretty famous, wherein he says, "I can do this all day," but then Captain America in the present is just like, "Yeah, whatever, I know," and like so that was a pretty fun part, and so then anyway, basically. We get what people are calling the Martha scene of this movie. And so Captain America from the past has Captain America of the future in like a chokehold. And then so present Captain America says Bucky is still alive. And so then Captain America of 2012 just lets him go because that's like his best friend and he doesn't know that he's alive. Which also technically creates a branch timeline because you cannot untell someone that. Like, you can't go back in time and get, like, when you're fixing all of this later in the movie, you can't just go back in time and get Captain America from then to tell that Captain America. Like, you can't get him to untell him something. Like, so.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of feel like, why would that have any meaning to past Captain America? Why would he believe this other Captain America? You know? It's like
Yeah.
Well,
Bucky is alive. Then wouldn't he just be like, no, he's not. He died 70 years ago, you jerk. And then just snap his neck. Like,
right. Like, and same thing with like saying Hail Hydra. It just seems like, and definitely to quote Pitch Wars, like, oh, was that hard to get it? Like, like, no, super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff just seems very easy. But okay, like, I don't know. I'm just saying that if you had like a terrorist who showed up in the White House and then said, like, I want like the nuclear codes, and the president's like, no, you're a terrorist. And then they go, USA, USA, here you go. I guess you're patriotic and you love this country. I will therefore give you this thing. Like, it just
no, see,
seems
it doesn't work that way because what you're referencing is the USA, not other countries. Other countries are stupider than that, apparently.
Okay, gotcha. All right, but yeah, so Bucky's still alive. Like, gasp, soap opera. Oh, and
Like, that's why people are calling it the Martha scene, because it's like
right.
when Batman's got the spear to Superman, he's like, you're letting him kill Martha. And then he just like stops everything and is like, wait,
Right.
why did you say her name? This one I can get a little more than the whole Martha thing, because like
Yeah.
Martha could be anyone, but like, how many people do you know who are named Bucky? Like, and he was kind of specific with it. He was like, yeah, Bucky's still alive, but in Batman v Superman, then Superman was just like, oh, you're letting him kill Martha. Like, okay, that's just a random person to Batman. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so then Ant-Man goes back to the regular time, to our present, I guess, and but Captain America and Iron Man go back in time again because basically Iron Man and Ant-Man failed their job at getting the Tesseract from Loki, so they got to go back to a different time when S.H.I.E.L.D. had the Space Stone, and so they do.
And more Pym particles
Yeah.
so that they will be able to return to the present.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically they go back in time and Iron Man gets to talk to his dad, which is, I like this part of the movie a lot because we get to see Iron Man talking to his dad, who he's never really gotten along with or ever liked, but in this conversation they're more so similar because Iron Man's dad is talking about how he's like, oh, well, like, I don't know how I'm going to be, like, I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to parenthood, and like, I'm expecting a child soon, or at least my wife is, or whatever. And so, like, it was good to see them connect that way because Iron Man at this point is a dad, and I like that. And I just wish, like, there was a line in this movie where he was like, oh, also, like, instead of, because he says his name is Howard, which is the same name as his dad's, which is weird. I wish that he just said, oh, I'm Tony, and then his dad be like, I kind of like that name. Because then, like, he would have pretty much been the reason he named himself, which would have been kind of cool. But then they didn't do that. And I was like, oh, but that could have been such a cool moment where he's just like, well, my name's Tony. And then his dad could have been like, that's a pretty good name. And then,
I mean, that's literally Back to the Future, but
That's Back to the Future.
okay.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I guess so. But I don't know.
Marty.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true. But anyway, still could have been a cool moment.
Well, I mean, they apparently don't like Back to the Future, so
Yeah.
Exactly. Can't use
and
that.
then so Captain America, since he's there with him, he's like, he goes to get the Pym particles, and then so then I think it's the military, like, captain or whoever, who he, like, who was in the first Captain America movie, is like talking to someone down the hall, and he's like, oh, well, I don't want to get recognized because then everyone would just be like, Captain America's still alive. So, and he goes into this office and then sees Peggy Carter, who is like his love interest in the first Captain America movie. And yeah, like, this scene I thought was also pretty good because, like, Captain America has, like, basically his glory days was World War II, because, like, the world was in chaos, and I think this is one of the reasons why I like him in this movie is because like it's kind of a parallel to his past life, and because like Captain America even says in this movie, this is the fight of our life, and like to him that's like so true because he fought in World War II, so everything after that was just kind of like, this is kind of a big deal, but World War II I was needed and I actually had a purpose in this, and I also like met the love of my life, and then so it's nice to see him in this movie be back in that position where he's like, no, this is even more intense because now not just all of Earth is in chaos, but the whole universe is in chaos, and so I'm needed again. And then him seeing Peggy Carter and like kind of reflecting on that. So I like that scene a lot. And so anyway, long story short, they get the Tesseract and they go back to the present. And so now they have all the Infinity Stones, I think.
Yeah, we got to talk about Black Widow
Oh,
and
right.
the Soul Stone.
That was also part of the movie.
Yeah, so Hawkeye and Black Widow go to get the Soul Stone, which you may remember requires a soul to be given in order to receive the Soul Stone.
Right, the most boring scene in Infinity War.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah, so then Black Widow and Hawkeye are fighting about who will kill themselves so that the other can have the Soul Stone. Literally fighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Both trying to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
Because Hawkeye is like, no, it should be me, for whatever reason.
My
And Black
family.
Widow. Huh?
I think he's like, oh well, like I need to save my family, and this will help save them. So and he's just like, I need to do this, so I can
And
help
Black
bring back.
Widow is like, yeah, you need to survive for your family.
Yeah, he's like, I want my family to come back
back.
so that way they can, like, my kids can grow up fatherless.
Pretty much.
Heroic.
It's like, why not just let her jump? And he's, for whatever reason, he's just like, no, I can't let you jump. I forget. Yeah,
But at the same time,
like
it
there's
does
some
like
reason, but I don't remember what it was.
for Hawkeye.
No, for Black Widow.
Oh,
like why he wanted Black Widow to live.
She why he wanted her to live?
Yeah,
Uh,
he definitely said something.
What
yeah.
does she have to live for?
Remember.
Does she have anything to live for?
Her relationship with the Hulk. I'm totally kidding because that was like such a throwaway thing from Avengers: Age of Ultron, which they don't even really bring that up until after she dies. And yeah.
Long story short, she's the one who dies, and then Hawkeye gets the Soul Stone, and he's
I'm
sad
devastated.
Yeah.
That I love how we're laughing about the character committing suicide in this movie.
Well, this is not exactly a tragedy,
That's true.
like, yeah, but okay.
I do think the scene was handled well, and for such a character who has been in the background, they did make it a big deal of the movie, and I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, in Infinity War, when Thanos wanted to throw, like, his daughter, is that right? His daughter? What's her name?
Gamora.
Like, I don't know what other people were feeling, and I know that I'm definitely not a psychopath because I feel things all the time. Like, I mean, like, you show a dog dying in any movie, I am crying. Like, I definitely feel emotions very deeply, but I'm just like, throw her! We all know you're going to throw her. This is the most boring part of the movie. Like, there's no tension in that, but it's supposed to be like, oh, see how Thanos is struggling with this? And it's like, no, he's not struggling. He's just going to throw her. We all know this. Just get it over with. Like, please. Like, the only one who was suffering in that scene was me, waiting, like, with tedium. Just like this. I suffered more than either of those characters.
Yeah.
The
only reason why I was sad that Gamora died was because, Peter Quill, like Star-Lord. I'm like, he lost her. But then at the same time, I was like, she'll probably be back.
Yeah.
Although they do say in this movie that once someone dies from, killing themselves or getting thrown off the edge of a cliff to get the soul stone, you can't bring that person back.
I still
Oh.
don't understand, like, who set these rules up for this soul stone thing?
Well, I think, like, I can get it for the soul stone because, like, you literally have control of, like, people's soul, I guess. So, like, I can see why it's such a big deal to get the soul stone over all the other ones.
Okay,
But,
but like it's an infinity stone. It's one of the things that created the universe, and somehow it ended up on this planet where the only thing that will get it to release is somebody dying.
yeah.
I don't understand who set that up.
That's a great point, Tyler.
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say. This, like, no, and I mean this, like, quite seriously. My point before of I get so frustrated because these films are so secular, but they beg a higher power that's involved in this. But they refuse to give us one. They refuse to say that there's any thing in the universe more powerful than the characters we see on screen. But you're like, but there's clearly something else going on here, but no one will acknowledge it. It's a bunch of people who are experiencing miracles constantly, but no one has any faith. It drives me crazy, because, like, it doesn't even make sense to me of, like, all of the things they're so secular, where it's like you get scientific explanations for all of these superheroes, and I don't. But then at the same time, then you're like, wait, but how does Thanos do this? How does he do that? If, like, how come he snaps his fingers? Like, you're clearly saying that he's a god, but you're trying to say that everything is explained by science. But then you're constantly bringing in metaphysics, and I don't understand how we're supposed to reconcile these things. Because, Tyler, you're absolutely right. Like, who set that rule up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's bothered by it.
No, I think that you should be. It doesn't. There is no internal logic to it, and that's my problem with this. Is I feel like there's no there in Marvel films. Like, I definitely think that there's something else going on with Star Wars. I think a lot of, like, DC films have got something else going on. I mean, like, my favorite superhero is Batman, and like, he absolutely has got, like, principles that he lives by, and he has got a very clear sense of justice, and he is put into difficult positions where he has to maintain his principles, at great cost. And it's like, oh, well, that's a real struggle that I can understand. But in this, it's just a bunch of demigods who are arguing with each other all the time over something that is inevitably going to happen. And then you're just like, stop stringing me along. I know where you're going with this. I think when you're watching a lot of, like, DC stuff, you don't know where it's necessarily going to go.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So
okay, so Black Widow, she throws herself into the volcano, and the local population is satisfied, and it won't explode for another year. Right?
Yep.
Pretty
And
much.
Hawkeye wakes up somewhere else with the Soul Stone in hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a pool of water somehow. I don't know. The Soul Stone is weird.
That's also,
Okay.
Yeah. Is that all the stones then?
I hope so.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, also Stan Lee's cameo is when they were at the Shield facility in World War II. He's driving a car and he doesn't like Tony Stark's beard.
Yeah.
He calls it a hippie beard, I think.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, and then so they all get back except the Nebula who came back.
Oh yeah.
Is not the Nebula who went back in time in the first place.
I don't even know who Nebula is.
The blue from Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right.
The one with all the implants. where
Oh,
they're
okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
because Thanos was like, okay, well now I know where they are. So he goes and to like the planet where the future nebula is, and then captures the future nebula, and then sends the past nebula in her place back to the future, um, so that she can sabotage this whole plan. And man, I guess she takes her time because yeah, all the Avengers are like, "Yay, we have all the Infinity Stones!" And
Yeah.
then Tony makes the whole gauntlet out
Mhm.
of his, Iron Man tech, and then they're arguing about who's going to snap, who's going to actually be the one to snap, and then they decide that the Hulk is going to be the one who snaps because he's like, most of the radiation that comes off of the Infinity Stones is gamma radiation, and I have a lot of experience with that. So I'll snap. And of course, the gauntlet can, change shape to fit whoever's hand.
Ooh,
Um,
like his shorts.
right.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and so he puts on the gauntlet, and then it starts, burning his arm and everything, and then he snaps, and then it's like, oh, did it work? Do we bring everyone back? And Hulk is his entire arm is now useless. Um, and
So
then
much for a life of farming.
Yeah.
right.
He'll just be a
Speaking,
Thanos farmer.
yes. Um, yeah, speaking of farming though, then Hawkeye gets a phone
Yeah.
call from his wife. Yay.
Oh,
But like it's like immediately.
Yeah,
Like he snaps
literally
and then immediately his phone is going off. Like
like like his wife would not have even had time to look all the way around herself.
yeah.
Just picked up the phone and dialed him. And was like,
Yeah.
"Where are you?"
oh man. Did they address at all what is involved in bringing back half the population of the universe when you snap and like the cognitive process that must go on?
It's basically just like you need to focus really hard on what you're doing.
It's like Superman flying, and then he just focuses harder and he flies faster.
Yeah.
I know, right? He should have to kick his feet like he's swimming.
Right.
If he kicks his feet faster, he'd fly faster. But okay, like this is why I'm saying that it drives me crazy because it's like, no, these are very serious superheroes that can be explained by science, not that silly DC stuff. But then it's like, yeah, that's not a good scientific explanation. Just squeeze your eyes shut, as if you're constipated, but don't think about that. Think about like how can you can't even think about like try to conceive of 7 billion people just on earth alone. Like can you even do that? Like the human mind cannot comprehend that. They say like we can't
Yeah.
hold even more than like a few hundred people in our head. Like
You're
do you know what I
forgetting
mean?
that this is Smart Hulk.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
We're dealing with Smulk here, the combination of
Smulk.
the greatest Avengers.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, man. So just as Ant-Man is looking out the window at the, multiple birds now, right? It's
Yeah.
birds, butterflies,
Yeah.
or something. And he's like, "Yay, there's twice as many as there was before." Just as that's happening, then Nebula opens up the time vortex thing, and Thanos' ship pops out of there like crazy. Because it's a gigantic ship. Like I can't describe how massive it is.
Yeah.
It's
Although,
like
like,
three. No, I don't even know. It's like what, like 8 city blocks?
it's probably like a Star Destroyer from Star Wars. That's
Okay.
probably, probably a little
Sure.
smaller than
Yeah.
that, but something around there.
So it
Okay.
just appears
Huh.
out of the portal and then fires all its missiles at the Avengers headquarters. And guess what? every single person
Yeah.
in the building survives the
Oh.
onslaught of missiles.
That was lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, every single person.
See, this would have been a great opportunity for them to kill off someone like War Machine. But like I don't get why they like I
How
think
did
that
Hawkeye survive? How did Ant-Man, who was looking out the
Yeah.
window as the missile came at him, you see the explosion, but somehow his helmet magically came on at some point in a, like fraction of a second for
It's a
him to be
yeah.
protected.
Like
That is one fantastic suit.
I can see why Marvel hasn't killed off like the major characters, but like
Because they
some
can't
of
be
the
killed.
side
Yeah.
characters well like
Right.
but some of the side characters like I don't get why they don't just are like okay, yes, it's like let's just write like we're fine with killing you in this scene. Like War Machine again, like he has no purpose in the MCU at this point. Why
Yeah.
didn't he die in this scene or even in again Captain America Civil War? Like he just does not have a purpose in the MCU. Like so why is he even there? Like I feel like he definitely could have been killed off here. But anyway,
I think that Ant-Man, though, he learned that trick from the quantum realm, right? He's like, it's a little
Yeah.
something he learned in the quantum realm.
he
This is what
has
you do when a
things work
missile's coming at you.
differently.
Yeah.
He's just like,
He didn't react to the missile coming toward him. He was literally just
Doesn't have to.
Yeah.
as the missile comes through the window.
Dude, once you've been to the quantum realm and back, missiles have no more meaning for you. Like, just life moves, at a totally different pace. I'm so confused. So why did Thanos wait? Because they did snap, like Smulk snapped, everyone comes back. Thanos waited until after that to try to kill them.
Yeah, basically.
So Nebula took her time with opening up the portal to bring Thanos back.
I think how I saw it was like I'm pretty sure also they explained it like Thanos just doesn't want to reassemble all the Infinity Stones. He just wants to show up and have them already there in a gauntlet for him. So all he has to do is put on the gauntlet and snap. And
so he'll just snap them right back. Basically,
yeah,
he doesn't
but this time
care.
But this time,
so he's got a new plan now.
Yeah.
He says clearly, somehow he figured all of this out. He says he says clearly what happened before was that he did ask past Nebula to show him all the recordings that future Nebula had taken. So I don't know how he had time to watch all of those 5 years, well, I guess, what would that, 9 years worth of video footage of the future? But anyway, so I guess that's how he knew exactly what happens. That he's like, well, okay, apparently if I snap out half of reality, half of all living creatures, then the other half is going to be miserable and is going to fight back and try to fix it. This time, I'm going to destroy every living creature and then start a new universe of living creatures.
That is ultimate farming. That's extreme farming. That's like Sim City times 1,000,000.
Oh, I just, when I heard that, I was like, I'm sorry, but his plan is to create a new universe, essentially. All the planets remain, but he is literally putting himself in the place of God.
That's what I'm saying. That it's a secular universe, but at the same time, it's not. But it's these people that you see on screen. They are the gods. And
I don't get why. There is in the comics the Celestials, and then you have the Eternity and the Living Tribunal that kind of run everything.
Yeah,
I don't get why they
MCU.
Didn't. And that's
why I'm saying I don't like these movies.
I don't get why they didn't just bring them in because it could have been easily done, and you could have just been I don't know. They even mention Celestials in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and even the main antagonist of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is a Celestial. So it was already kind of there for them to use. They just didn't. And
and
so I don't quite get that decision. Yeah,
shown but not included. Yeah.
So that, yeah,
The
I don't get
Guardians of the
that.
Galaxy movies set up like they are perfect to set up everything
Mhm.
that Marvel is trying to do.
Yeah.
But they haven't had enough of those movies yet for this to actually feel cohesive.
Mhm. So anyway, basically, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor are the first ones to recover from basically being nuked, and then they, uh, Thanos is just like kind of sitting down outside of their mansion or headquarters, and then the three of them get ready to fight. Iron Man puts on his armor, Captain America's holding his shield, and Thor now holding the present hammer, which is his axe from Avengers Infinity
Stormbreaker.
War. Yes, and Mjolnir, his hammer from the past MCU movies. And so he's holding both, and Iron Man's got his new suit, all that. So they all fight.
Meanwhile, Nebula is has been past Nebula has been sent to get the Infinity Gauntlet and all the Infinity Stones, and bring them to Thanos, which is why he's
Yeah.
just sitting there. He's just
Yeah.
like, ha ha ha! I'm just gonna sit
Yeah.
here and wait for you to find them.
Right.
I trust you.
Yeah.
And all the other Avengers are like, we have to keep the gauntlet away from Thanos.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
So yeah, those three main Avengers, I guess, are all fighting Thanos.
Yeah.
And
Did
man,
they do
it
like an
is
epic run up?
No, they kind of all like
Oh.
attack him in a sequence. So like first I think Iron Man, then
No, after
they-
you.
yeah, pretty much.
yes.
It's like that generic thing in movies where you have like this team of people, but they all attack individually, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
why don't you all just attack at the same time?
Right.
Like,
Yes. Yes.
Although at
you
one
did it in the
point,
beginning of the movie.
I know every time that happens in a movie, it feels so much like a 90s RPG. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
wait, I have to wait here for my opponent to like decide what they're going to attack me with. And then you just stand there and then you're like, all right, now I'm going to use this attack. And then the other person just stands there waiting.
Yeah.
That's every single time that comes up in one of these movies. That's what I feel like. And I'm just like, this is stupid.
Well, it reminds me of Assassin's Creed, which came out like in 2007 or something, where literally all you have to do is hold block the entire time, and there'll be like 6 guys around you, and you just need to wait for one of them to be like, ah, and then you push the counter button and you just instantly stab them. You literally take them out one at a time as
Right.
they're all just standing around you. It's like, this is not a good plan, guys.
Right.
So
But okay.
the fight does get pretty amazing in my opinion. Mainly again Captain America, because oh boy, it gets great with him. So
First,
basically,
I want to mention that at one point, then Iron Man opens up the back of his suit in
Yeah.
order, and then says, "Thor, hit me up," and Thor summons a gigantic bolt of lightning that he sends directly into Tony's suit, and then Tony converts that into a plasma charge that he shoots at Thanos. I don't know what the
yeah.
purpose of that is. Why can't you just shoot plasma and
Well-
also lightning?
I think it's like how in like the first Avengers movie when Thor hits him with lightning, then he gets like super overcharged with power because of the lightning, and then fires it back at Thor. I think that's what they're going for there. But so anyway, basically Thanos easily takes down all of the Avengers, and he's got Stormbreaker. He's holding it up to Thor's chest and is about to kill him. We all know it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then
Well, by the way, I don't understand how Thanos is able to hold Stormbreaker, because isn't it like mystical just like Mjolnir was?
no, so basically with Stormbreaker, you just have to be physically strong enough to hold it and not die from the lightning.
Oh, okay.
So that's
I could do
basically. So yeah, so
So you're
Thanos is
getting a
about to
good
kill.
parallel shot here uh of Thanos pushing the axe slowly into Thor's chest instead of Thor pushing the axe into Thanos' chest like the end of Infinity War.
Mm.
Yeah. And then so then we see Mjolnir, Thor's hammer from the past MCU films, start to lift off the ground, and then it flies over and hits Thanos. And apparently, I did not know this, but apparently a lot of people thought that Thor was just calling it to him like he has before. But
Yeah.
I was like, yes, this is Captain America's moment. He's finally going to lift the hammer, because I was just wanting that to happen so much. And then it finally did, because the hammer hits Thanos and flies over to Captain America, and he catches it. And
And
this is
Captain
like, oh
America
my
is
goodness.
an expert with this
Yeah, okay.
stuff.
He uses it much
Immediately.
better than Thor.
Immediately. My goodness. Oh yeah, and the reason why he decided to pick up the hammer is because his shield was like destroyed by
I
Thanos. Or
don't
did
think
that
that
happen
happened yet. No.
Could,
Oh, okay, well, whatever.
could I
Thanos
just
steps through his shield at some point.
um just a little aside here about Captain America. So
Mhm.
I don't think that I don't think that like this particular student, number one, watches my podcast or will have made it this far in. And second of all, I'm not going to name him by name, but we were talking about this. He loves Captain America, and then he was asking me Captain America or Iron Man, and I'm like, if I have to choose, it's going to be Iron Man. But I don't really care for either option. And then he's like, "What? How can you not love Captain America?" And I'm like, "He's too perfect. He's too good at everything. He's captain of the football team. You know, he's like I just like, what am I supposed to like? Show me one flaw, one way that he's tormented in some way, some kind of character flaw that he has, any vice that he has, and then." This is the best that my student could come up with. First, he's like, he's too loyal. I'm like, no, that's not a flaw. That's not a flaw. And then he's like,
That's like,
well, he was frozen for 70 years. So, like, he would have been, living back in like the 40s. So he's probably really racist. And I'm like, okay, there's that.
except for his best friend in the present day is Falcon, who is,
Hey,
as we
he's
all know.
trying to overcome this.
Right.
Okay.
He's working
yeah,
on
that
it.
actually that puts a whole different spin
Yeah.
on the fact that it was Nick Fury who unfroze him. He's like, "Hey, I'm the head of Shield." No, really, where's the real
I
head of
must
Shield?
be in the future. It's like, don't you need more convincing? You're in charge? No, that's the only convincing I need. We are clearly in a different time. So I'm like, okay, maybe there is that character flaw.
Well, one of the things that I like about Captain America is that he's pretty much a perfect character, but put in an imperfect world. And like, so that I always find interesting with his movies is because like he's like such a great person, but all the people around him have flaws, and all the people like around him are so imperfect, and same with the world that he's in. So that is what makes him interesting to me, and like, and
Sorry, it just
Uh,
reminds me of like Big Bang Theory when Sheldon is like, "Oh, I have to be surrounded by all these lesser minds." Like, that's what you're describing right now. What torment for him!
That's right.
well,
Do you
like,
know how hard this is on me?
I'm not saying that that's a bad thing for him. All I'm saying is it makes it like the story's interesting, and so like, and like he's never really had a happy ending at all in the MCU until this movie. Like all his endings are meh at best. Like, because the first one he's frozen in ice and then wakes up 70 years later, and then the end of Avengers he's just stuck in this world that he's like, this is all right, but I guess I'm here. And then like, you know, Captain America the Winter Soldier, he's just found out that his best friend is a terrorist and he doesn't end up saving him, so he's trying to get him. And like, you know, he just like shield ever, like the only thing that he was really working for in this world is now completely destroyed and was Hydra, a terrorist organization. Then, you know, Age of Ultron, he's just like, I guess I'm an Avenger now, and this is what I have going for me. But he's not really happy. And then Captain America: Civil War, he loses all his friends. Then Avengers: Infinity War, well, he loses all his friends again, but in a different way, where they actually die. And then so he's like never had a happy ending, which is another thing that I find interesting about the stories for him. And so that's what makes this movie and his character satisfying to me. And like, so when he lifts Thor's hammer, I was so excited. And yes, he does use it way better than Thor ever did, because
My
I don't know.
goodness. The first thing he does is like magically send the hammer to smash Thanos, and then it comes back to him. And then he does the whip thing, where he like spins it around and then like makes himself fly by spinning his hammer really fast.
I don't think
he practiced with like a smaller hammer from Home Depot or something first.
I don't think he flew, but he definitely spins it, and then I think he just jumps and uppercuts Thanos with it. And so yeah, I don't think he ever flies with it in the movie. But yeah, he still uses it way better than Thor ever did, because like, man, but it was still really amazing to see for me.
Thor is not an American.
Yeah,
Captain America can do anything.
And remember, people from a different country are not as smart as we've seen in this movie, because you just need to say something,
right?
You've got them beat. And so yeah, but either way, like this fight scene was like such a good fight scene. Like, oh my goodness.
So who wins?
Well, Thanos does, because Captain America was like winning for a while, but then like Thanos just is like, I'm gonna like stand up and use my sword or whatever. So it's basically like Captain America's winning until Thanos is like, he just decides to try a little harder, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So
like,
so here. Aside from that, I take issue with the fact that Captain America's shield is vibranium, which is, like the strongest metal in the universe, supposedly, on Earth, and yet it can still withstand Mjolnir in the first Avengers. It gets hit and absolutely no damage happens to the person under the shield. And Thanos just takes his blade and just slices right through it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What is Thanos' blade made of?
I don't know, but there needs to be an infomercial like selling steak knives with that material. That's what they need to have. The new like Thanos blade, like those old like infomercials. They're like, you can cut through a boot and then like a tin can, and don't worry, it's still sharp for a tomato. That's what they need to do.
So that's why all the people in Wakanda have been holding out the vibranium. They just want steak knives.
That's right.
Try and knife through our steak with the weak knives.
Okay.
So he cuts through the shield. So now the shield is split in two.
Yeah, but Captain America still uses the other half of it.
Okay.
And so yeah, and that's pretty much gets us to the final fight. I mean, other than that, it's just like, Thanos' army shows up or something, and then all the Avengers get up from the rubble. Well, Hawkeye is carrying the gauntlet, I guess, and that's pretty much what happens until the final fight.
Yeah, they so their idea is, okay, if we can get the gauntlet, somebody to take the gauntlet back into the through the time portal thing, then then the stones will be scattered again, and then Thanos won't be able to get them. So yeah, that's their plan. Get it to the time portal that was in the back of Ant-Man's van, which survived all.
Yeah, we didn't mention
destruction.
that, but
the regular time portal that Tony Stark made, that's destroyed.
Oh,
But the brown van,
I'm
nondescript
just
van.
thinking, Ant-Man is going to use this to pick up the ladies. He's going to be like, you got to check out the back of my van. I've got a time portal back there, a gauntlet. It's a really cool pad. You just got to hang out. Like,
Yeah.
the back of his van? Really?
And I mean, it's like that's the time portal that before turned Ant-Man into a baby, an old man, and a kid. So I don't know why it's, oh yeah, it'll totally work better this time.
It's probably going to turn it into like a nice little anklet. The
Also,
gauntlet. It'll become an anklet after going through it.
Also, a bit of a nitpick here. Why didn't they just use the time stone? Like, you could just use that. I'm just realizing that now, actually. I didn't think of that before.
Yeah. Hey, let's
that.
just, go back in time a little bit to before Thanos came through the time portal.
Maybe because Tony Stark's gauntlet thingy it wasn't quite equipped for that. Yeah, there we go. That's why you needed to have Peter Dinklage's character, because he knows how to like forge it specifically to wield that particular stone in that particular way.
Although actually, I think that it is kind of explained, because I guess you can't withstand the full power of the Infinity Gauntlet for a large amount of time. So I guess that's an explanation. But Captain Marvel is apparently all powerful, as they have explained, well, not explained, but continuously said. And so I guess she could have done it, but yeah,
but she's still gone.
No,
she shows up. Yeah,
she reappears just in time, along with Doctor Strange, who opens up all his magic portals to bring everybody from the entire MCU to this final battle.
No, you've got to be kidding me. I cannot possibly imagine. Did an executive from Marvel also come on screen and then just slap everybody in the face in the theater and said, we made you cry in the last movie, you moron. You thought they were actually dead? Do you know how much money we make from a single Spider-Man movie? We're not killing him off. You guys are all suckers. Did that happen too? Because okay. Anyway,
well,
sure.
Spider-Man did, make a little comment. He says, "Hey, so yeah, I don't know what happened, but I guess I passed out or something because I felt weird, and then 5 minutes later, I guess I passed out, and then this, Doctor Strange was telling me about how all this stuff happened, like half the universe was wiped out or whatever, and whatever. Now I'm back, and I'm gonna help you guys out, okay?"
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, they're just oh yeah, Doctor Strange was just oh, we need to go and help them because I've seen all these futures, and so we need to go and help them fight. Which, how did he know this was the timeline where they won? Because he could have been come on, guys, let's get every army that we have and go to this place, and then they all just show up and be oh, this is the timeline where we lose. I guess we're just all ready for battle for nothing, because then no one would have been there if this was a timeline where they lost.
There are so many questions. Okay, all right. So I want to talk about, Captain Marvel ends up getting the gauntlet, and it's yeah, I can get it to the van, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they're both in the van trying to get the time machine to work. And then every female character in the MCU is all on screen at once because I think it's Spider-Man who's oh, how's she gonna get the gauntlet? Is it Spider-Man or is it somebody else?
I don't remember. I think it's Spider-Man. Oh yeah, because he's
it's how is she gonna get it through all of this madness? And then even though we all know that Captain Marvel can literally just blow through everything.
Yeah.
Then somebody else is oh, she's got help. And then every female character all gets together all together, and it was all like, yeah, female empowerment.
Yeah.
All facts at once to get Captain Marvel to the van, which does not work out.
Yeah. So then, anyway, basically,
Right, that's not really bothering me. I was like,
yeah,
really? It's just the
Yeah.
female superheroes who are gonna help Captain Marvel? Okay, that feels a bit on the nose. Thanks.
Yeah. Like, I get if you want to like have female superheroes, obviously, because like,
Yeah.
I like, yes, I'm like, I want that to happen, but like, it's not like we've ever been like, oh, we just need the Avengers to be all men. Sorry, Black Widow. Sorry, everyone else who's a female. You are not allowed to join the Avengers. It's just the men. Like, that's what it feels like. It feels like they're saying, no, you're not allowed to join this team if you're a male. Only if you're a female can you be a part of our team. And
No
it's like,
boys allowed.
yeah, it's like, but like, yeah, there might not have been characters that were female other than Black Widow for the first, well, for just the first Avengers movie, because then after that, then Scarlet Witch shows up and she's a female and she joins the team.
My
And
goodness,
like,
Scarlet Witch is so overpowered.
yeah.
It's ridiculous. She tears off Thanos' armor like
Whoa.
instantly. She
Well,
just goes,
right.
"Arrgh!" And then his armor like peels off.
Yeah. It feels, well, like she's pretty much the equivalent of like Jean Grey for this movie.
Who's that guy that she was dating?
Oh, Vision. Yeah, okay.
Do you think she ever
Okay.
did that like to Vision on like the honeymoon? Just and Vision's just like
I don't know. Did Vision even wear actual clothes?
I don't
He
know.
was a
I don't know.
robot.
Does for a
Is he an
bit.
android? I don't even know.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
seems like she's
Anyway.
practiced that before.
But Vision is still dead.
Yeah, because
Okay.
he died from not being dusted. Which
Stone got
would
taken.
he even have been able to? Because he's not technically a human or a living being, so technically he wouldn't have even been able to be snapped out of existence.
What are the rules for what's on the creature?
No,
Too many questions.
all right. So anyway, we get to the final parts of the fight, and it's basically Thanos versus a whole bunch of the Avengers. Well, they each put on the Infinity Gauntlet one at a time and have that for a second. So Thanos puts it on. He does his thing for a bit, and then Iron Man runs over, fights. Well, not really fights, just kind of grabs Thanos by the arm, gets thrown away, and then Thanos tries to snap, and he says, "I am inevitable," and then he snaps, but nothing happens. And then Iron Man lifts up his arm with all the Infinity Stones in his hand from one little swipe. And I mean, this is like the best sleight of hand you've ever seen in the world.
Oh.
Because he took 6 things off of one guy, off his one arm in a matter of seconds.
Stark Tech that he was taking
Exactly,
it off.
that's true.
Right.
Apparently, also his nanotech, I guess, helped him do that. Either way, this is like incredible sleight of hand because Thanos didn't even feel the power of all the Infinity Stones leave his body. And so then Iron Man lifts his hand and says, "And I am Iron Man," and snaps, and then dies because he is human and can't handle the power of the Infinity Stones, I guess.
So here's an interesting thing, though. When Hulk puts on the glove, it instantly starts to burn his arm before he snaps. When Tony Stark gets all of them on his suit, which was not the custom-made gauntlet, he's fine all the way up until he snaps.
Because all of it was Stark tech.
Wow.
And his whole armor is magical.
Man,
That sounds
I don't
like
know.
another infomercial. Stark Tech.
Because
we should have sponsored
like, this hurts! As soon as he put it on.
Right.
And Tony was just like, yep, I got all of them. Haha, I am Iron Man.
Yeah, because what you're describing, Tyler, if like he was actually in agony, that would have been realistic, and it wouldn't have been cool. It wouldn't have made him look badass, and like,
But imagine the scene.
Probably
I am Iron Man.
I would love to see that version of
Me
it.
too. I
Like-
watched that.
Come on, because Iron Man swipes all the Infinity Stones off of Thanos, and then Thanos is like, "Ha ha ha! See, I am inevitable." Wait, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Oh no, you took all the stones. Like,
Yeah,
you
he would have been
know
like, he would have just been like, I am in. Wait, what are you doing? And then just hear Iron Man like, ah! Just like holding the gauntlet, like, my arm.
So I'm assuming after all of this, they then kill Thanos.
Yeah, Iron Man snaps and dusts all of Thanos' forces because he concentrated hard.
Oh, okay. And including Thanos?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Uh,
also, past Nebula was killed by future Nebula with Gamora next to her because they have reunited. Gamora and Nebula are sisters
Yeah.
from the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah.
And Gamora's like the 2014 Gamora, not the one that was thrown off of a cliff. She doesn't come back.
Wait,
Yeah.
but Gamora is back.
Yeah.
So you guys saying that I was a weirdo for like laughing, saying like totally unmoved by her getting thrown off and
Well, no, I'm like,
I don't know. They don't show her at the end, do they?
no, like Gamora from being thrown off a cliff isn't back. It's just like it's Nebula from the past, like from
Right.
the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. That's
But
her.
Gamora from 2014, her and Star-Lord have a bit of a reunion, but of course Gamora has no idea who Star-Lord is because she hasn't met him yet.
Yeah.
And but then
Yeah.
she's from the 2014 timeline thing. Is she still around after? I don't think that she is. I think she gets snapped out of existence along with
No,
Thanos'
I think she just goes off somewhere at the end of the movie, like,
because she's not with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah, and so
And they don't show her
Yeah.
again.
yeah, I don't know.
I think you both need to buy another ticket and go see this movie just to clarify this one point. Wait it out for 3 hours, and you're probably gonna have to go to the bathroom at that point, and then you're gonna miss it again. No.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And then is that it? Everyone's happy. Then
well, then
everyone goes back to
there's-
farming and
Well, then okay,
picnics.
there's Iron Man's funeral, and then Captain America finally gets his happy ending because he's the one to send all the stones back to their time, to where they were when they took them from earlier in the movie. And then so on this machine that they've created to send him back in time, then they hit the button to try and bring him back, but he doesn't show up. So then they're like, oh my goodness, where's Captain America? And then basically Winter Soldier and Falcon see him sitting on this bench over
Funniest
way
thing.
off in the distance. So then they walk over and he's like an old man because when he brought all the stones back to their other time, then he decided to stay back in time with Peggy Carter from the first Captain America movie and live out his days with her in 1945 and all that. And I was like, oh, he finally gets a happy ending. I'm okay with that. Because originally I wanted him to die in the movie, but I was like, you know what? This is the next best thing.
That racist guy was happy because he got to go
Yes.
back to a time before civil rights.
And so he lived for another 80 years after
I know,
going back to
right? That's a
1980.
really long time. Wouldn't he be like 120
like-
years old?
Also, apparently, like, I think the super soldier serum slows down his aging, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But that would kind of suck, because then I mean who you're with is going to die.
That'd be an awkward
Before you
dynamic in a
again.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
She'd be like 40 or like 50, and he'd be like, I've still got the body of a 25-year-old.
Yeah, that's right. Like she's in a nursing home, like too arthritic to even knit, and he's like, out on a skateboard, like, John, bro.
We need Skater Captain America as a movie.
See that? That was a sweet move.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Did I make it through it? Have I now
Quite.
sort of what?
Not quite.
Oh, but Captain America, we see that he has gotten over his racism because he hands Falcon the Captain America shield. And so now Falcon, who is, of course, of different race than Captain America, is now going to be Captain America.
But didn't that shield bring
Well,
him
it's
nothing
the
but
shield from the
misery? You just
past.
walked us through this of like
That's
like
true.
him being
That's
Captain
true.
America, and then it's like sort of like the economy's falling apart. Barack Obama, you now get to be president. And by the way, there's 2 wars.
But Captain America was like, you know what? I have had enough of this misery with this shield. It's time for someone else to have this misery. So here you go.
Because I like you so much.
Yeah.
I have so many questions at the end of this movie, and I saw the movie.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. Okay, so the Sorceress Supreme, played by Tilda Swinton, she explains that the Infinity Stones have to go back to their own time, right? To wherever you got them. Okay. So, and Captain America also takes Mjolnir back,
Yeah.
right? So he puts the 6 stones back, he puts Mjolnir back, but we still don't know what happened to Loki and the Tesseract after 2012, right?
So that, I guess, well, they're also doing a Loki TV series on their
Oh.
DC Plus streaming service. So that's, I think, what they're going to do with that, which I am not excited for. Like, stop with Loki. Like, he's died 3 times now. Are you kidding me? Just end him already. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so done with Loki at this point. Like,
Okay, so that's my one question. My other question, where did this Captain America shield that Captain America gave to Falcon come from? Because
think
his
it's just
shield
like-
got chopped into pieces, and he can't have brought one back from the past because then it would have to go back to the past later.
yeah, that's true.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's like, it's kind of hard to explain because, like, also the Russo brothers were like, oh yeah, because the time travel rules we have, he created a different timeline. So I guess he also had to jump universes to get back to this one so he could sit on this bench at this time and hand Falcon the shield. So he jumped to this universe from a different one so he could sit on a bench and surprise everyone and be like, I'm an old man.
Surprise.
Yeah.
That's
What?
seriously my other question, because, okay, they set up this whole thing in order, like this whole pad out in the middle of the woods, in order to send Captain America back to bring all the stones back.
Yeah.
They didn't look around and say, hey, who's that old guy sitting on the bench
Yeah.
there?
Wait, he was right there when they sent him back?
Yes! Either that or he was like hiding behind a bush, waiting until his past self went back in time and then came out to sit on the bench, waiting for them to see him. I'm so glad they looked over in that direction.
He's
Yeah,
so
like-
vain. Who, like, if you could live that long, it's like, oh man, I just want to watch myself from a distance. What a weirdo. Oh.
And then, like, yeah, like, like, I want to see a different timeline where they just didn't look over there and he was just sitting there waiting for him to see, waiting for them to see him, and then he's just sitting there, and then like a few hours go by and he's just like,
Wait, they all left
Yeah.
already?
That would have been good. I would have enjoyed that.
also, okay, like, do they just do this whole time travel thing at Iron Man's funeral? Because I'm pretty sure they do, and like, wow, like you're at this guy's funeral who saved like the universe, and you're just like, all right, well, now that we're done the sad part of this funeral, let's go back in time and do our mission. Like,
That's right.
They definitely seem to do it at the beach house, but
Yeah.
I think they're wearing different clothes, maybe?
Oh yeah, but they probably brought those changed clothes to the funeral. Guess that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, like, Tony,
'cause
this
you
is
can
really
see-
not your day. That's going to be the second most important thing that happens today.
Right. Yeah. Also, by the way, Pepper Potts, again, Tony's wife, not dog.
Got it.
She gets an Iron Man suit as well during that final battle.
Oh.
But you know, since you got that confusion about her being a dog, I would love to see a dog in an
Yeah.
Iron Man suit.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my
Iron
goodness.
Dog.
Yeah, and the repulsor should be like when he barks.
Yeah.
And it just shoot out of the mouth.
That'd be pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I have one more question.
Okay, and then we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, okay. So my one final question is if the Infinity Stones had to go back, Mjolnir had to go back, what happened to Thanos, past Nebula, all them? They all died, right? They were
So that,
snapped out of existence in the future, which means that they can't then go back to the past, which means that Thanos would never live long enough in order to snap for the first time.
That's a different timeline again because, you know,
But
the
Infinity
events
Stones
of the
have to go
future.
back.
But that's so that way they can stop those other timelines from happening. But I guess that is a timeline that they can't stop from happening. So, like, it's like, because the rules of time travel is like, you know, you have to bring back the Infinity Stones. So that way there's not new timelines that are created, which doesn't really make sense. But then it's like, you'd have to do the same for Thanos. Because, like, I mean, there's a definitely different timeline where you didn't go back to take those Infinity Stones and then re-put them back. So it's just like, that's gonna create an alternate timeline anyway. Why even return the stones? Like,
Their time travel rules make no sense.
I know.
I've watched several different reviews where ostensibly intelligent people say, okay, there's time travel in this movie, but it makes so much sense. And then I'm just like, I don't think you know what you're talking about.
It doesn't make
Like,
any sense.
I think, like, if you go by their rules, they like, and you like are like, okay, whatever, I'll take out the logic and like how it all works in the real world and be like, okay, so if these were the rules, I can see how it makes sense. But
But it
it's
still
so,
doesn't
like,
make sense to me
yeah.
because the stones have to go back. But Thanos doesn't have to go back.
Well, like, the only
Unless that's what Tony did, but he turned to dust.
yeah,
Thanos
like,
turned to dust just like all the other people did. So it certainly doesn't seem like he was sent back to his own time.
yeah, which he wasn't, which is like, okay, so like, again, like, it's just like creating a different timeline. So like now there's a universe where Thanos never snapped anyone out of existence, and there's another like happy, peaceful universe where like Thanos just doesn't exist after 2014, and possibly the Guardians never get together because Gamora's not there. And yeah,
So why did the stones have to go back?
to stop the other timelines that would have been created had they
But the
kept
other
stuff.
timelines are going to happen anyway.
That's what I'm saying. That's just what I think. But apparently, in the logic of this movie, that's incorrect, and that they will stop those timelines from existing if they bring them back. Which, again,
But if
I
they
think
bring
doesn't
them
make sense.
back, I don't understand, because if they bring them back and put them where they were in the first place, isn't that going to allow Thanos to then accumulate them all over again?
Well, like,
Yeah.
that's what has to happen, I guess, or something.
But Thanos
Like,
isn't back there to collect them.
well, like, I think it's just like
Can we agree that,
I
that
know, it's
there are
confusing.
some inconsistencies
Yeah,
here?
It's
Yeah,
like
there
it's
are.
like the card, you know, where it says how to entertain an idiot for an hour, and then it says like turn to other side for answer, and then you turn it to the other side, and then it says how to entertain an idiot for an hour, turn to the other side for an answer. That's what this is. This logic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours of this.
Does that make us the idiots who talked about this for like 3
Hey,
hours?
I at least didn't pay
I know.
money for
But
this.
I'm saying we're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, did they have a Marvel executive just like come on screen and like, you know, in 3D style, just like come out and just slap the audience?
Although,
say,
again,
"Gotcha."
everyone, I do want to say I did enjoy this movie quite a lot. It's just some parts of the logic were a bit broken.
Okay, so yeah, so let's wrap this up here. So Luke, on a scale of, you know, 0 to 5, let's say 0 to 5, what would you rate this movie?
Can it be out of 10?
Sure, out of 10.
Okay, I just don't like rating things out of 5.
Yeah,
Not
that's
enough
fine.
room for margins.
Sure, that's fine.
I would probably give it a 7.5.
Oh, what would you
Which-
give Infinity War?
Like probably an 8.5 or 9. Because
Okay.
like that one, I would say like I would say that Infinity War had a lot better of a main story and all that, but Endgame had more of just moments that were fantastic, less of the whole collective story being good.
Gotcha. Tyler?
Oh man. Infinity War actually had a main character, Thanos. So that was good.
Mm-hmm.
This film had a bunch of characters who I don't know who is the main character. Um,
Mhm.
there are a lot of logical inconsistencies. Um, I mean, you're not going to see this movie for, oh, what an intellectual film or anything like
Yeah.
that. That's certainly not the case. Um, it has good action, it has some good humor.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
You don't have to lowball it on my behalf.
I I was gonna say 6, but yeah, maybe like 5.5 or
Really?
6.
That low?
Yeah, I just have some major issues with it. Like, I don't
Okay.
like this Smart Hulk thing who, you
Smart.
Mm.
know, Smulk. Yeah, I
Everyone
don't
will
know.
use that name for him. Not Professor Hulk, it will be Smulk.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, probably 6. 6 out of 10.
Okay.
It, like, it's to the point where I'm never gonna see it again.
Really?
Um, well, I don't intend on seeing it again.
Okay.
It was, I mean, it's 3 hours and 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to spend, more time on it.
No.
Um, yeah, and especially when, like there are so many frustrating things in it to me that I don't know, they don't make sense. They don't work. The whole getting the gang back together thing goes on for too long. Like the entire first act of the movie is just, okay, these are all the things you need to know. The film only works if you've seen every other Marvel movie, because
Mm-hmm.
you've got references to Ant-Man and the Wasp, Winter Soldier, Civil War, of course, Infinity War. Like, you have to know everything in order
Mm-hmm.
to even follow this movie. And that's not a good movie. It's just, but it has big action scenes and some humor. I didn't enjoy much of the humor. There were a few moments, where I was like, yeah, that was genuinely very funny. Ant-Man was fantastic,
I was
but
gonna say Paul Rudd sounded like he was good.
yeah, he's
Come on, no
fantastic.
Fortnite and that Smulk dab there.
Oh, never mind, it's a 4.5.
Oh yeah. But well, I mean,
Yeah.
so it's not only like the 3 hour movie, but now like a 3 hour podcast. So it's 6 hours. I've at least only spent 3 hours of my life on this. And
Right.
I would give the film the exact same number of stars as I gave it in dollars, which would be 0 because I have not seen it and I'm not going to buy a ticket for it. And I don't even know if I'll be able to get through it because like I say I have not like what's it called? The one that you were all surprised Civil War, like I yeah, have not like that's been on Netflix. I've tried just you
Yeah.
know uh, but that's just
Yeah,
me. I like if you like the movie then that's great. Like
that's
for
Yeah.
actually my
anybody.
favorite MCU movie.
Okay. No, I'm saying like just in general, if you
Yeah.
like MCU movies, then that's great. And if it works for you, then that's great. They just don't work for me, but that's fine. But I figured that it's like the biggest movie opening of all time, and every person I know is like, "How have you not seen this thing?" And
Yeah. I feel
yeah,
like for Star Wars, it's like for this and Star Wars, like me and Tyler are like reversed roles, but like you are
mm,
still where you were, because like with
yeah,
Star Wars, I'm like kind of in the middle. I'm like, it's all right now, but like not great. Tyler's like, the Avengers is all right now, but not great. And with Star Wars, he's like, oh, yeah, I really enjoy them. And with this, I'm like, I really enjoy it. But for
Yeah.
you with both, you're like, I don't really care about it. And it's
Yeah.
like, so I like how we have like pretty much all three perspectives for both Star
Yeah, we
Wars
do.
and Marvel.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's good. And I like having a
Yeah.
conversation like that because a lot of people
Yeah.
will just, it becomes an echo chamber of either just a hate fest or a love fest or, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the one thing that I will say about I guess, the credits of this movie, for one thing, my goodness, there are a lot of people in this movie.
Yeah.
Like you've got Tilda Swinton, Natalie Portman, as well as all the main characters.
Yeah.
But all the original Avengers, the ones from 2012 Avengers, then during the credits, then their signature appears in the center of the screen, and then their name appears. That implies to me that all of those original Avengers are not going to be back for future Avengers films. So that's, Black Widow, she's dead. Captain America is old. Tony Stark is dead. um, Hawkeye is going to retire and farm with his family.
Or so he says. He's tried that twice now.
Right.
Like,
Thor needs an ab roller.
yeah.
Yes. Hulk has a busted arm and is no longer nearly as much fun because even when they go to New York and they're like, "Oh, you better smash some things so that you
Oh,
look
yeah.
like the Hulk from this time," then he's like, "Oh, it feels so gratuitous," and then like he like kind of hits a taxi, and I'm like, okay, so he doesn't have the
Yeah.
best of both worlds.
Like,
He does not have the
Yeah.
smash part of Hulk.
Somehow made
Yeah.
him less interesting.
And like,
Yes.
Somehow.
yeah. And like, it's just
So he's
like,
not going to be in future Avengers movies. Thor is the only one where I'm like, okay, he's still alive, and he goes off with the Guardians of the Galaxy at the end of the movie.
yeah.
Is he going to be one of the Guardians now?
I guess so.
That's what I'm like. Everybody was done except for him, who's like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, like Thor was one of the biggest frustrations of this movie for me, and the Hulk for that. One of that reasons being is that he never smashes because like, come on, like you've
Is he
been
known
building
for
up.
that?
Yes, and it's like you have been building up for the past like 3 movies for him to smash again because he's had this whole big fit about not wanting to be the Hulk and all that. But then we never see him smash again, and it was so frustrating because I'm
That's
like,
good
come on,
storytelling.
like when is the Hulk gonna show up and start to attack? Yeah, which is the problem because like so far it's been such great storytelling in my opinion, and then with this, it's just like, nah, we're not gonna pay off this thing
We
that we've
give
been
up.
building up to, and with Thor, it's just like he gives up and he just becomes Thor and never has emotional payoff in this movie, especially because like he never really uh like he never really fights against Thanos in the end battle except for like briefly, and he never gets to talk to him and like you know like have
Over the
any
head.
other than at the very beginning, like 15 minutes of first 15 minutes he then cuts off his head, and it's just like that is the whole emotional payoff to that Thor throwing the axe at Thanos in the other one. And like, so yeah, again, that's just why like it's not near like 8 or 9 for me on a scale of 1 to 10. But there were so many good parts, and it's just so sad because I'm like, well, there's so many people who love this movie. I'm like, I just don't see it being that great to me. It was somewhat disappointing.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanna end it there. I'm not trying to end it on
That's a
on
good
a low note, but we've been going for a long time, and I've got to move on with my life.
Yes.
All right. Well, this is great, guys. Thank you for doing this, and
Yeah.
thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey.
Bye.
Ignore the bell, people. We're gonna keep going. We're still ignoring it. Don't worry. I don't know what that. I think that's the fire drill. All right. We're gonna go home. Yeah. All right. We're done.